This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we will start off. That's not me.
I think it is.
There we go. That's better. We'll start off with public comment. Chris, who do we have?
Justin Kersel, Hampton Park. Sure, Jim Wazinski, Silver Lakes. I'll notify you when the time limit hits 5 minutes.
Thank you. There's a couple of things I want to comment on with regard to ponds and pond standards that are in the board book this time. First thing I want to call attention to is this proposal for consulting services. What you have in the board book is not actually what this proposal is. The board book version has been truncated somehow. Parts of it are left out.
Well, Jim, I think that I've learned that the documents in the board book is not the latest proposal. There's another proposal dated April 20th.
Right, which is this one.
Yeah, well, the one that's in the board book is dated April 14th.
Okay.
It's not the same one.
Not the same one.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I wanted to bring up here is, and I've been here before, the frustrations we have had trying to get the pond standards implemented in Silver Lakes and elsewhere, where every obstacle in the world imaginable was thrown in front of us. We finally got through and got things done. The last time I was here was a breakthrough finally when we got the standard dealing with removal taken care of finally. But it's been like pulling teeth. It's been a 6-month aggravating thing. The reason I'm bringing this up is that I'll be blunt. There are certain staff here who don't want to implement standards. They just don't. And they put stuff in our way. They throw just meaningless things in our way. And we have to fight through it. We've been able to fight through it. This is like the dying wish Hail Mary pass at the end, where bringing an outsider in who doesn't know anything about Gateway is going to come in. You can review your documents that you already know, so it's going to give you information you've already got. It's going to look at the condition of the system while you've already been doing that. The first one is, $7,500 to just review documents that are your documents. You already know what's in them. Taking a look at the ponds, $2,500. If the pond standards have been followed, you're having reports on those going along. And then write a report that will change the pond standards, or propose to change the pond standard. Now, I find this insulting. I spent hundreds of hours on that committee, as did Flavia, probably more than me. You, the board, dutifully got everything put together. You adopted it after having public meetings and workshops and everything else. And the standards have not even been implemented yet. They're not even implemented, and yet we're trying to do a Hail Mary pass here to change them, have an outsider come in and change them. That's just wrong. It's insulting. It's $17,500 in total. That's just wasted money. And that should go elsewhere and either saved or go elsewhere, into the pond maintenance. And the pond, going to the pond maintenance, also in here, there's some reports which are kind of extraordinarily high level reports here on the pond standards and the condition of ponds. I would suggest when you look at these, take them with a big grain of salt. I will just speak to the Silver Lakes part of that. There's 3 ponds in Silver Lakes. One of the assessments is correct. The other 2 is not. And a lot of it's misleading. Yeah, for instance, statements that, pond 85, where I'm at, says there's no algae and no trash in the pond. And then it goes on to say, oops, the sprayed areas are developing algae. Well, they're not. One of the biggest sprayed areas right by me, behind my house, and then 4 others right next to me. There's no algae there. I was just out there again. There's no algae there. And it says the same thing on pond 89, which is the one that's kind of like a marsh over here. I've got pictures of this. I don't know if you can see them or not. I was just out there today. This is a sprayed area. Okay.
You need to.
Yeah,
expand
renew it.
expand
Oh,
back up.
sorry. Got fingers, man. Yeah. All right, so this is it. This is like a number of areas, houses in a row that got sprayed. So you have a little bit loading here. Now, I was standing on the edge of treated and untreated areas. Turning my back the other direction, this is what's there. There's algae everywhere inside the untreated littoral area. The algae you saw just a second ago on the treated area, it broke off from here. Resident said it came from here, broke off and just floated. So the report says there's no algae on Lake 89. Well, yeah. It also says that it's in compliance, and 85 and 89 are in compliance with the standards. I can tell you that, I can show you some more pictures if you like. There are littorals that are out 20 feet plus.
Jim, you're referring to the staff report that's included in the board book.
Yes,
And a 1-minute warning.
there are, it's out more than 20 feet. I've got pictures of that too. So that's not in compliance there. There's also spots where the inlet and outlets, where it's not supposed to have any littorals growing up within 3 feet of all sides. They're growing up right next to it. So they're not in compliance there. The last thing, so I have a 1-minute warning. In the budget, I see there's an item here, an increase to $60,000 for water testing, and the explanation is to comply with the standards. I don't understand that. The standards say that each basin, or 6 basins, get tested once a month. So that's 72 tests. Round numbers, if it's $200 a test, that's $14,400. They've been testing water on places where, even though it's not necessary under the standards, they've been doing it anyway. I think it's a waste of money. When someone requests removal, that's 8 ponds so far. That's 6 over in Hampton, 2 in Silver Lakes, $1,600. That's $16,000 now total. You look at all the other ponds, you have 25, 30 of them that are already rocked up. There's nothing there. You have a bunch like 91, 113, 115, 129 that are out in the FPL easement. Nobody, no one's doing anything with those. You have a whole bunch that have no littorals at all, like 88 in Silver Lakes, 101, 103, 106, 107, 108. There's a whole bunch of those. So how many are left if somebody wants removal? There can't be more than 20 or 25 ponds left. So if all 20 had one person asking for it, that's 20 more tests, $4,000. Right? That's 20,000 total. How come there's $60,000 in here? The original budget for last year was 30, which gives you a cushion in case there is an issue in a basin and you have to go upstream. Okay, I understand that. What's the other 30 for, other than slush fund to move it someplace else later on? So I want to call your attention to that too, because I know you're going to start considering this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Mr. Wisniewski, if you could, the photos that you presented to the board, if you could print them out and give them to Chris to be part of the record.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
email them over, I'll get them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Or email. Thank you.
Justin?
You said that $17,000 was what? A survey?
No, it's,
Can you just come to the podium before you start?
I'm sorry.
Just because it's
Okay.
gonna be hard.
Here, on 3 of them.
Thank you.
You guys can review. This is Hampton Park. I work, as you can see. I don't have the time to be out snapping photos of stuff. But the reason what I'm sitting here for is I went to LIPA and I dotted out a few areas that I found some problems with where I took photos of. Okay? There's homeowners that have requested littorals removed. That's removed, not sprayed and not left there to die, okay? Because when they're left there to die, they end up like this. They sit there and they float. I'm done looking at this, okay? The second photo, I ain't taking 5 minutes. The second photo is the 3 properties that were sprayed. Third photo is lake number 4. I don't know what the big number is, but it's lake number 4 in Hampton Park. It's on the edge. These are the littorals that stand over 3 feet tall. And then the last photo is, well, I don't know, algae, some green littorals that are starting to grow up into somebody's yard, and rocks. I mean, the rocks are fine. I don't care. I mean, when the water table comes up, those will disappear anyway. Not worried about all that. In a nutshell, we're going to have to follow either the DO or the pond standards, period. If we get rid of the pond standards, then let's go to the DO. We can pull the DO and we can knock these littorals down to 25% and call it a day. Call aquagenics. I know there's stuff out there that you can spray on algae that's going to knock this algae down, just like they do in Silver Lakes. Spray the algae till it's gone. I don't care what you got to do. We're going to follow one of the two. You can do surveys. You can have people come out here and do this and say that. You can bring Fernando in here and have him spill his spiel. I don't care. Guys, this is our community. I've been living here since July 26th of 2004. I love this community. Why is it every pond that I see from the main streets look beautiful? The ones you don't see from the main streets look like garbage. Dawn, here's a copy for you so you can fix it.
All right, Chris, who else do we have?
We have one left, Warren Davies, Stony Brook.
Warren Davies, Stony Brook, and I will keep it to 5 minutes. This is a quick one. Recently, we've not had any mulch spread along Pebble Brook roadway or on any of the trees, the flower beds, et cetera, for the last year. A savings for us of roughly $12,000. But the comments from the residents are, where is it? Why don't we have it out there? It makes a big difference. Makes it look a lot better when people are coming into our community to see the flower beds clean and neat like most other places. We thought that was just going to be a year, but then in reviewing the 2000, 2001 or 2001 contract with Mainscapes, mulch is not even listed for Gateway, nothing. I know there's some reasoning.
2021?
The current, the new contract that was just signed.
So it's 2021, not 2001,
Yeah.
2021.
It just was signed in April.
Okay.
There's nothing in the listing for any mulch at all in anywhere in Gateway as far as Gateway property. We have, unfortunately, Stony Brook has Gateway property, but we felt we should, I feel, that we should have had some kind of a choice whether we wanted to put that along our roadways or not. We paid for it eventually. We budgeted $12,000 to do it for this last year up through this budget time. And it hasn't been done. And I don't know when it's going to be done, if it's going to be done. Reasoning behind it is that, a lot of us realize that it gets into the sewer system, et cetera. But to restrict a small area compared to like our area in the loop, we put pine stall down every year. Every year it goes. So it's going to go someplace. And other communities do the same thing. So if you're going to do just one little strip and say, no, we're not going to put pine straw, to me, it's ineffective, because if you're going to do it, it needs to be all of Gateway, not just Stony Brook or just Gateway properties.
And Warren, you talking about from Gateway Boulevard into Pebblebrook
The
or from
Pebble- yeah.
Pebblebrook all the way?
Yeah,
How far
all
down?
the way in the cul-de-sacs. There's been no mulch put around any of the trees and the flower beds and the cul-de-sacs anywhere that is a gateway access.
Okay.
What do your covenants require?
They couldn't tell you right offhand. I think most of the residents keep mulch of some type and they have to be approved through the board. So I'm assuming it's somewhere in the covenants that they have to have some
Okay,
stuff.
our covenants at Gateway Greens are very specific on this. It's you will maintain 2 inches of minimum of mulch all year round.
And we do
That's
that.
everywhere.
Yeah, and we do that in the villas because the villas association pays for it. So we do that there. Homeowners, the rest of the community do it on their own. So with all the stuff going on and all the lakes and stuff, to not put it along Pebblebrook Boulevard.
But your issue today, as I understand it, is not what is within Stony Brook itself, but it's what's within Stony Brook that is monitored and maintained by the CDD.
Yes.
I know of I don't recall any meeting at which we made a decision to withdraw mulch from any of our contracts
Right.
on
And-
beds.
and
I've
as I
never
say,
heard of that.
The new contract that was just signed in April of 2021, I just got a hold of it today, actually. There's no listing at all for any mulch. And it was listed before under Stony Brook. In the last budget, it was 11,220. This year, there's not even any mulch. It's not even listed as something that we can buy from Mainscapes. And Mainscapes costs $7 a bale.
Chris, where would that have come from?
I'd have to ask Brian to address that if he's close by. I know there was some discussion.
Why would we have taken mulch out?
I think they used the money for something else.
We
Brian?
took a year from not putting pine straw up and down Gateway Boulevard due to the road construction and all that. We did it also to get the pine straw from going down to storm drains because we're cleaning all the storm drains. We didn't say anything about Stony Brook not being done. So I have to tell Mainscape to go ahead and do Stony Brook. The only reason we took a year off was, and I have to check the contract because it should be coming up in the contract, if not by added to it. But we took a year off for the mulch because of all the issues we had with the storm cleaning up and down Gateway Boulevard.
But you're only talking about Gateway Boulevard.
Correct.
Okay.
Stony Brook, I'll have to check, Warren. That should have been in there. That was not, we just told Mainscape do not do Gateway Boulevard because of all the issues we were having with cleaning the storm drains out last year. But I will definitely check on that.
Just out of curiosity, is there, just in your opinion, Brian, is there an alternative to the pine straw that does better at staying true and doesn't wash out?
It all goes into the sewers.
All goes
when
in
it
the drain no
rains.
matter what you do. I mean, unfortunately, Nell can contest whether you use mulch, you use pine straw, it's all gonna go in your storm drains either way. Pine straw probably holds up better, doesn't it?
It can be calcium.
So
I was just curious.
It's
I
your-
didn't know.
pine straw's cheaper.
Well, up north, we always use pine straw.
We do have one more
But we also have pine trees.
public comment request to address, and that's Matt Chitwood. Matt?
I'm remote, so I hope you guys can hear me. If you can't hear me, just speak up and I can cut it short. Just want to address the board in reference to, repeat that, I'm sorry.
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. In the past 2 months, since the 58 oak trees were removed off Gateway Boulevard, I've been driving around Lee County and I've seen hundreds, if not more than hundreds, of new and old oak trees planted along Lee County maintained roads that have had either the same spacing or even smaller spacing from the road or between the trees. And it's been Daniels Parkway to Imperial Parkway, Tree Line, Summerlin Road, all over the county. So I still haven't heard a solid reason from the board. I know you guys went to some pretty extensive discussion at that first meeting about why you guys decided as a board to remove the trees. So I just was a little concerned in this reviewing this week's or the budget proposal for 2022 that came out. I saw there was a new line, $30,000 for tree removal that was added, and another increase on tree trimmings from 40 to 60,000 for the year. So when I saw those two, I got concerned. Seeing that's $50,000. I mean, you spent about $50,000 removing the trees from Gateway Boulevard this year, and there is a big contingent of residents that are concerned about oak trees being removed. So if somebody, either in your comments or later down the road, can just address what this amount of money, $30,000 of tree removal is being added for, in addition to what's already, being used to take care of trees, and the extra 20,000 for trimmings of trees. Just very concerned about removing more oak trees because they take so long to get to be as big as they need to be to really put out a good amount of shade. Second comment was reviewing the Gateway Commons. I don't know if it's a proposal, not necessarily a proposal, but for Whole Monty's to give us a proposal on that. I didn't see anywhere in the wording that looked like it called for any kind of public comment other than I think I saw board review and staff review. I would really just like the board to open up at least a date or some kind of opportunity for residents to have some input into what the Gateway Commons possibilities are. So other than that, that's all I have for a comment. Thank you.
And I'll just say, Matt, we're, part of the plan is to make sure, and absolutely it's, part of the approach is to have, resident community input in the Commons Park. It's a multi-step process. So, but just know that that is definitely a part of the design plan, which is to obtain input from the residents. That we've talked about that multiple times. Regarding the trees, the budget items that you have in, I would say this would be classified as maintenance. This is where, we have to do some trimming. In some areas, it's to allow for better, throughput from our light poles. Our existing oak trees are blocking pretty much light poles, which the canopy is fantastic, but it also, if you don't have any light at night, it does pose additional risk. And we've had, feedback on the sidewalks down Gateway Boulevard being very dark at night. In addition, I can't speak to, all the oak trees that are, throughout Fort Myers, Lee County. What we can speak to is the impacts that some of those trees have had on our community. We have made public statements. I've made it, the board members have made it, staff has made it, that it's not our intent to remove oak trees or oak tree canopies in Gateway because it's a part of our community. But at the same time, there are unintended consequences of having those oak trees. And what we're seeing is, so we're very clear, it's breakage and disruption to the sidewalks, the roads, and probably most importantly, it's our infrastructure with irrigation and water and sewage. So, there may be some areas where there's a few trees that need to be removed, for those reasons, but it is not our intent to impact the canopy in a way that would be significant or even noticeable to the community. Those oak trees down towards Stony Brook that we removed were removed for those very reasons. Again, I talked about this a couple weeks ago. There was basically a reactive and a proactive approach. The reactive approach was those more mature oak trees were that whole strip is only about 3 feet in diameter, which is, if you live in this community, either you or your neighbor or someone in your community has an oak tree within 3 feet of their sidewalk or their driveway where it's starting to break that sidewalk and that driveway up, and they're being removed on a daily basis in every community within Gateway. So there were some we had to remove because there was just no room for them to grow. We'd have to either keep repairing the street or keep repairing the road, which again causes risk and liability. And there were a few that we took down as more preventative before they got to a mature state. Now, again, we are working on a plan to replace those oak trees with something else that will be aesthetically pleasing, but that is in the works. So thank you. Chris, is that it? Public comments?
One other comment.
Yep, go ahead, Bob.
And that is, I don't know if Matt's aware of it, but we're having inaugurating a President's Council meeting where items like the Gateway Commons Park proposals and concepts will be reviewed with every HOA. That's part of the increased communication that we're trying to address this year.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. That's a good reminder.
No one else is asked to comment.
All right, so we will move into staff reports. We'll start with District Attorney.
Just briefly, on the ADT small claims action, we received a check. I assume hopefully it's cleared by now for about $5,800, $5,900 for the amount that we were charged for nothing. for 4 years, plus filing fees and costs. And ATD also has been very responsive to some other issues that Laura has had. Now that we know that there's a direct person or associate general counsel up in Maryland to deal with on these kind of matters. And Pelican Reserve on the agreement with regards to the three-part agreement between the Pelican Reserve Community Association, WCI, and the district. The language and the terms are all finalized, just a matter of attaching the exhibits, and that agreement is ready to go. Paul McMichael did a nice job. Jermaine Chastain, I think, did a nice job on the application, the DRIDO amendment. I provided my comments. Didn't see anybody else's comments. So once that agreement is finalized and signed, then I think everybody's in a good position to go forward to continue to process that. With regards to the HR manual, I've been working with Suzanne Boyd and Laura on that. I know Laura's not here today. I think it's in your board book for discussion only.
It is.
And so we can have some discussions now, or we can continue at a later date when the board is going to be requested to adopt it. There's some new legislation that was adopted by the Florida legislature in their infinite wisdom, obviously tongue in cheek and sarcastic, with regards to impact fees or connection fees. As far as the ability to impose them, requiring installment payments and all kinds of other interesting aspects that could have a substantial effect on this district's ability to raise connection fees in the future. And it's retroactive to January of 2021 if the governor does not veto it. So just sort of stay tuned on that. I sent out, I think, to Mr. Tinkle a copy of the bill and the staff analysis. So it's just a matter of the legislature is sort of doing a flip from what happened back in the late 60s, early 70s in Florida. As Florida was growing, the concept was to give more home rule to local government. The legislature in the last few years has been taking back that home rule. So this is another step along that way.
Is there anything, Tony, that we should be doing now in preparation for what that legislature could potentially, how it could potentially impact us?
Chris, sent it to Chris and asked to be sent to Raftelis, the rate consultant. I'm sure Raftelis was aware of it. I'm sure a lot of people in the industry are aware of it, and asking them for their guidance on how to handle that.
Okay.
Because again, there's some amazing constraints that are in that legislation.
And you said it was retroactive
To January 1st of 2021.
to January. Okay.
Yeah. Whenever legislation like this happens, it's some legislator's mother or a large developer.
Somebody got burnt.
Or a large developer, take your pick. I mean, that's usually sort of what happens, or relative, somebody got burned. On the letter to go out with regards to spraying littorals, I have an initial draft, not yet ready to go out. When it's finalized, I'll send it to Brian for review. That's the one that came up at the last board meeting.
That's the one where we're prohibiting,
Telling everybody and send out to all the associations to not spray.
not to proactively or individually spray their,
On an individual basis.
Correct.
anything
That's
that's not,
authorized by the
anything that's
board.
not authorized by the
That's
board or the
authorized by the
district.
board.
Yep.
With regards to the traffic control agreement in Pelican Preserve, Chris, do we have a task authorization to Tetra Tech to do the signs of the roadways, make sure everything's MUTC compliant on the new segments?
No, we have, they were looking at, I think, some things in Stony Brook, but we do not have any.
Okay, I'll get with Chris on,
What are you talking about?
in order to amend the traffic control agreement the district has with the city of Fort Myers for Pelican Preserve, the city is requiring an MUTC review, DD review.
A certification?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
as
just
to
a
the
review?
new road segments. And so I'll go with Chris and we'll have a task authorization, hopefully for next board meeting.
Just so I'm clear, is that pretty much the same thing we're trying to do in Stony Brook?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay,
Same thing.
okay.
Same thing.
So we could, whoever we identify, we could knock two birds out with one stone.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Okay.
And again, it does not require any competitive solicitation for that to happen because the cost of that is way under any thresholds. Any other comments the board may have?
Question.
No question.
Tony, the employee handbook here,
Yes.
I was looking through that today. Did these a long time ago and said I never wanted to see another one again. Here we go. Who authored this original document? Did this come from another community that we just plagiarized?
No, I think Paychex provided it, if I recall correctly, Laura. can
They gave you a
speak to it.
guide.
I'm online.
Go ahead, Laura.
Oh, Laura, I can't take your name.
I'm here. That Paychex did the original document. We did an entire revamp of the employee handbook, and that pay,
Going, I can
it's
hardly
authored
hear.
by Paychex. Sorry, it's authored by Paychex.
It's authored by Paychex.
Okay, so it was a guide
Yes.
and then we've modified it.
Yes.
Okay, that was my
Yeah, so
question.
they basically, what Laura said is they have completely revamped the handbook based on this template that was provided by Paycheck. But it has been customized and configured for our needs.
Correct. And what it does incorporate some of the prior provisions and then modifies other provisions. And then Suzanne Boy, your employment labor law attorney, and I reviewed it, and those are the comments.
Yeah, I looked at the red line version and it was real interesting. I was trying, if this came from somebody, I was trying to figure out why some of that, let's say for lack of a better term, nasty language that was in there was in there. But, I mean, anybody that's an employer, you don't put that kind of stuff in one of these.
Well, if you're in Montana, I mentioned Montana in there.
Montana, where's that?
Oh, that's in there. They got,
Montana?
yeah.
Is that next to this country?
So I think that,
Must be,
God's country.
must be next to Seattle or
That's God's
something.
country.
and I think where due diligence needs to come in now, and I think staff has done it, is we take a handbook template like this, we align it to our existing, we identify where there's opportunities, and then ultimately Suzanne and Tony will make sure that it is tailored, catered, and meets any district or, a government entity like we have with any special.
Well, as I read the note, it sounded like we're like 97% complete.
I believe we are.
So my question is, what's the timeline for how we're going to do this? Are we going to get is there another version yet to come, red line, or what are we asking for right now? Because when I looked at this, it looked like it was pretty extensive comments by everybody, most of which I thought were pretty good.
Laura,
So
I would imagine this is final draft review, so.
Yeah.
that's what I was
What
asking.
Just absent Laura sending me a nasty email later on, is that the board's comfortable basically with the text as provided. They schedule it for consideration at the second meeting, and first meeting for adoption. We adopt the resolution adopting the manual.
Yeah.
Or if you're comfortable, we can do it the next meeting.
So,
Well,
so
Ed, did you get a red line version? I did not.
yeah, you have to click it on the side. The one that was in your board book, if you click the red line on the side, it'll pop up.
Okay, I did not.
Yeah.
Pick up on that.
Because when I did that, I called the office and had them print me a red line version.
Yeah,
Because it's the only way to really review these. And you get
I'll
all.
get one.
Have Georgia print.
Yeah.
So then the idea is right now we go back, review this, and then our option is either at the second May meeting, we make an approval, or we wait to the first June meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that where we're headed, and while we want to make sure this is about as close to,
As
to
good
100% as we can get,
Yeah.
by at the last board meeting, we approved Laura to move forward with leveraging, Paycheck's HR resource as opposed to us hiring a part-time person. So what we would want to do is have regular reviews, because we'll have someone that's, within their scope,
Right.
to keep this up to date. So we don't go a year, 2 years without it being reviewed, or we run across an issue, gosh, this should be updated in the handbook, and we never do it. Now we're going to have someone that's responsible. So it should be updated quarterly, or at least reviewed and modified whenever needed.
Yeah. Is this a issue that we need to definitively do at the first June meeting or the second June meeting? What's our
There's no date
timeline?
driver.
There's no date driver.
Okay, so as long as we're giving our input back to Laura. I had a
And
comment.
I'd much rather have us all agree to give our input
Okay,
back
that'll
at
be
the
a
next
lengthy
meeting,
process,
such
and
that
I'm okay
the
with that.
following meeting, we can go.
But the one comment in there about bereavement, to let us know as soon as possible. I mean,
What do you
okay,
got?
unless you're gonna kill
You got
somebody.
an Ouija board that tells you what.
But anyway, you had some minor comments like, I'm sorry, Doug.
Yeah, no,
I just wasn't sure what
no,
the
that's-
forum you wanted us to take was.
What I would say is, if you apply your comments back to Laura,
I would be happy at the board meeting, so the discussion, the board can hear everybody else.
what I would
Schedule a long meeting.
what I would prefer is if you have updates or input or comments,
Get it to
send
them.
that to Laura. The next board
Chris,
meeting,
can you mute the rest of the people that are on here? Because there's somebody who's calling in and I can't hear anything going on in the boardroom.
Can't understand a word she's saying. She's really,
so what I would say, if there's input, send it to Laura. she'll compile it, and then the next board meeting, we'll have any open discussion, because there may be some items that we do need to discuss as a board, because this is policy.
Absolutely.
And we need to have, a collective, agreement on some of those. So, and then we will approve, probably the
Cleaning it
next.
up at the next board.
At the
I
next
think
board,
that's
yeah.
the way to do it. Okay.
And Montana is on page 5.
Montana.
Tony, anything else from you?
No, sir.
Okay. District engineer, and I didn't see anything in the board book from Tetra Tech. Did I miss something? As far as their task authorization tracking and Stephen, are you on?
Hold on just a second.
So you got to find Tetra Tech and unmute him.
Steve, you on? Danny?
They're there.
I think he's
Hold
trying
on.
to figure out which one.
There was something in the book
There's
that
Tetra Tech.
prompted me to call about the matter.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm on. I think Steven should be on as well, but no, there should have been a task authorization update, but I'm guessing it didn't get on the agenda or get completed.
Okay.
That's nice.
So Danny, while we're trying to figure out which one is Stephen online, is there anything from engineering? I'm sure there's probably got to be several items.
I got some issues.
I mean, Stephen, are you on? There's an echo there. So just an update on a few things that we're working on. Obviously, the last round of the lake banks for this phase are underway in construction, so nothing significant
Hey, guys.
there. You're on, Stephen?
Yeah, I was just muted.
Okay, all right. I'll bug out then.
Hey guys, yeah, sorry. The task update was supposed to make it to this agenda, but I missed the deadline, so we'll have that sent in, and it'll be on the next agenda, and we'll have it there for y'all. But just to carry on with what Danny was doing, lake bank restoration project 59 is going on right now. They've got TRM being installed. There was a small snag on this project. Last week, we discovered that there were 2 pipes that were buried inside of the lake bank. When we had the lake surveyed, they weren't picked up, so we didn't expect them to be there. And then while Met Tower was out there digging, they uncovered 2 pipe inlets. And when they uncovered one of them, it caused a huge siphoning effect from the upstream lake and jettisoned a bunch of leaves and debris and created a sandbar just from that pipe being unclogged finally. So they're working on that. It's kind of a small change order. I think Brian's going to bring that up later on his progress update. The plan right now is to just wrap around those 2 found mitered end sections and then just carry on with the rest of the restoration.
Stephen, how many culverts or pipes were identified in that lake previously?
I think there's 6 in that lake. Those 2 were buried in the lake bank, right next to each other. They were, who knows how long they've been buried. That one pipe was completely full. They went out to the road, and they said the inlet at the road was just completely full. So it's been plugged for quite a long time.
Okay. And then I haven't heard any issues from residents. Matter of fact, I think I've heard more positive as far as just the crews coming in. There hasn't been any issues. And Warren, you're shaking your head, so you haven't heard anything. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's always a good thing. So that's moving along. I mean, there's 2 other lakes associated with this task, but Met Tower had plans to start pretty soon, but I think that's been delayed since that last rain. I think that caught them off guard. They had to come out and bring pumps to, dewater the lake. So we need to regroup with them and see when they plan to start on the next lake. This would be 123.
Steve, when are they going to start Mahogany Isles?
Well, that's unknown at this point. They were supposed to start very, very soon, if not already, but I think the rain caught them off guard and kind of delayed things. So we'll get with them this next week. Me and Brian can chat with them and, see if we can get them to get going on that.
Yeah, they need to get going on that because this rain anymore is going to catch up with them. That 5-6 inches we got a week or so ago really brought that water level up, and we don't want to have that happen again, or otherwise they're going to be working underwater on installing that stone and fabric.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they'll have to dewater. At this point, it seems like they're going to have to dewater no matter when they start, which is doable. They've just done it on a rather large lake, so that shouldn't be too big of a deal at 123.
Well, 120 is 123 the one in Mahogany Isles? Well,
Yes.
the thing on that is it has basically minimal inflow. The only inflow that comes in that pond is the water that falls on the street. That's it. So that would be
Right.
one, wanted to pump it down to be able to facilitate the bank improvements would be immensely easy to do. Very easy.
Right. Moving on, we did a warranty walkthrough with Metro.
Stephen, question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, relative to the 2 new pipes that were found with the mitered end sections, did they terminate or begin, depending on your point of view, on the street with a street drain?
No, one connects to a lake on the other side of the street, and the other one, I believe, does terminate like just a couple runs away.
Okay, I'm just wondering how they weren't picked up.
That's what I wondered.
I mean, if we're surveying them,
This goes
I
way
just
back.
find that very curious as to,
This goes way back
okay.
as to how this happened.
It was buried. I mean, it
Well,
was completely buried in the lake bank.
Well, I can understand from that end, but the other end, I mean, if there had to be a pipe in a control structure on the street that went somewhere, and if we didn't know where it went, why didn't we know where?
Interpond structures.
But even
then, you should still, there should have been some as-built something to identify this.
Or you see a pipe and if it's full, I wonder where that goes.
I wasn't aware that any interpond structure in Gateway terminated in a, what do you call it? Pipe structure.
Mitered end section.
Ended in a head wall. Why did this one do that? Something, I don't know that we ever looked at the original
head walls
plans.
at one end, but
Something's a little fishy on this, but I do have another question.
I
for
just
Steve.
wonder how robust the preliminary survey was, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and Supervisor Tinkle, you had another question?
Yeah, this one's really comes out and falls under the district management report, but it impacts you all. I'm immensely concerned when we have a vendor using the term notice of intent to file a claim for delay. That gets my attention. I've done some research on this, and I don't know what's going on, but somebody here dropped the ball. It looks to me like what's Johnson Engineering doing out there? What they playing a little Stevie Wonder? Can't they read your specs? The specs make it clear that there was supposed to be potholing done by the contractor. Why is the contractor now coming back and acting like he's the innocent one and filing claims? He screwed up. He didn't take and measure those deals 6 months ago that we should have had FPL on notice that we had a direct grade conflict. Him sitting here making all these innuendos just isn't getting my attention. Do your job, engineer, inspector, and do your job, contractor. We wouldn't be in this place in the first place. What am I missing here? Does Johnson,
Yeah,
can't they read
and
the
let me
specs?
real quick on that. I sent it right at the start of the meeting, so I'm sure Chris hasn't seen it. I mean, we need to formally, respond to that. So what took place was Alex Slaby, who previously was the project manager on the county, he's since been hired and retained by Wright. So he's now the project manager on the side of Wright and not on the county. He drafted a letter to whom it may concern. He sent that to Johnson's representative, John Glenn, and I think a few others, and copied Chris. So it was a to whom it may concern sort of letter. And so we haven't officially, responded, but I sent an email to Chris saying, hey, I really think we should, because they need to know our position, but you're absolutely right. of this, Gateway and Tetra Tech were the only ones that, did everything right here. Everybody else did not. We provided the information. We told them exactly what to do. They got a notice to proceed in October, November, whenever it was. They've had 6, 7, 8 months to get with FP&L to avoid this conflict, and they wait until the day that they expose it, which is now they're at the point where the conflict is imminent and it has to be addressed, and they file this claim. So
I'm having a real problem that we're having to play political cards to kiss somebody's backside for somebody else to screw up that was clearly written on the specifications and on the plan sheets, for which at least I saw, that made it their responsibility to go out and should have done potholing of these deals to determine if we had a grade conflict. I mean, it's so clear on the drawings. What am I missing that Wright and Johnson can't see?
Yeah, you're right. I think we just need to formally respond, letting them know that position. And I prepared a draft email. I don't know if it should be a letter or an email or what we need to do or who it should come from. So that's essentially what my letter or my email to Chris and to Tony. So we can, we'll discuss that offline and proceed in the appropriate way.
When somebody's filing a notice of a claim, that's time to be thinking about having a meeting. We need to have a meeting of all the parties and making sure that our position is clear. Is guys, if you did do this and you did pothole it and you saw that there was a grade conflict 6 months ago, why didn't you tell us?
So Tony, what is your legal opinion here?
Just back up a bit. The project is the roundabout at Gateway and Commerce Lakes
Drive.
And there's a 6-inch, and correct me if I'm wrong, any technical aspects, Chris or Danny, a 6-inch FPL.
Things bigger than that.
And it's a 50 kilovolt line, it appears, runs under that, which is kind of juicy. It runs under Gateway Boulevard. And the plans clearly show that, and the plans are attached. I mean, these are the utility adjustment plan, the county's documents. Chris was able to obtain the full set of documents from the county, sent it to me. And the contract is between Lee County and Wright Construction to do the work. The utility, and correct me if I'm wrong, the utility relocation work is a subset of that work. So recognizing Alex Slavin sent to whom it may concern, which is kind of an interesting format, he sent it to everybody, looks like. I would suggest that Danny's drafted a response, Chris and I look at it, that we respond back to Lee County, to Johnson Engineering, and to Wright. And to Lee County saying, this is your contract. We got this. We dispute. We are the party whose utility work is being undertaken for the scope. We don't know what your evaluation of this notice of claim has been, but here's our take on it.
Right.
I think that would be the approach. Chris, Danny, you agree?
Yes.
Fair, because we're not the contracting entity, Lee County, and Wright. And Johnson is the engineering firm doing the work for Lee County.
If this would have fallen under what we call a differing site condition, then it'd have my attention, and that would be different. This is not a differing site condition. It's called out for on the drawings. It's just somebody ignored the specifications.
What I would suggest is Chris has done a lot of work with FPL to try to get them to expedite their work to remove or modify it. And I guess, Chris, would their work be at their sole expense, FPL?
Yeah, they would come in and it's really, they were going to get to the point where next week they would be stopped because the utility part. And,
Leading Wright would be stopped.
Right. And we aren't getting in the blame game here. We just asked, went to Commissioner Pendergrass and Christine Duramo, his assistant, and put us in touch with Charlotte Miller at FPL and Juan Cruz that we work for. They've been very accommodating to kind of move it because they understand it's going to delay the road work, and no one's pointing any fingers in that part of it.
Well, what I saw fingers when somebody said notice of claim. Here's the thing that gets me. I did this.
Well, they're not explicitly calling us out.
Well, yeah,
it's a general.
It doesn't make any difference.
Well, yeah,
it trickles downhill is what happens.
Well, that's what I think what Tony and staff are going to do. They're basically going to reply with a response that will absolve us of.
But maybe in the interim, what I would suggest is, since Chris is being, basically, we don't have a duty to try to resolve it, but Chris is volunteering the district to do it, and good steps to do that. I would suggest that Chris forward that to Lee County, forward that to Johnson Engineering, forward that to Wright. So listen, Lee County, this is your contract. Johnson, you're their engineer, run through their contract. Here's what you need to decide what option to utilize. Danny, is that fair from an engineering perspective?
Yes.
Well,
Look at all this Lee County.
I'd like to see one more thing. I've been down this road before so many times that it makes me sick to think about it. Where are we checking the exclusivity rights of FPL on that pipe? In other words, they might have the right to use the utility easement, but do they have the exclusive right to use that at that depth? Because every attorney I've worked with all my life has said, you don't produce that document, you're here at our pleasure, move it. We need to know the answer. Do they have an exclusive easement to that location of where they put that line?
I would suggest it appears that right now, again, it's a Lee County roadway. I don't know if there's any knock on the door of Gateway's vault to pay that cost of relocation. And so that's what I'm suggesting, that a communication go to Lee County saying, hey, this is not our issue. These plans, your contract, you're the contracting entity, that's your contractor. But in an effort to help you, here's what we have done. Please finish carrying the ball. And it's at no expense to the district. I would suggest that be an approach.
I think we're on the same page. Our deal is that if there is a damage to be falling on this, don't let it fall this way.
Well, and don't let us volunteer and take the role. I mean,
No,
we've been trying to basically mitigate the impact, because it sounds like Chris, is Lee County doing anything on it? It sounds like kind of sitting on their
You know,
hands.
and this all really came up, a week ago.
Yeah.
When it came out, and they did file a notice of intent, but they haven't filed a claim.
But I'm saying, has Lee County done anything other than?
No, they've left it between the contractor and FPL, and the contractor's been working with FPL, and there's two solutions. When we stepped in, it was only asking FPL to expedite it if they could because of the impact on the roadway.
Okay, I think that's how we can couch it and send it to the Lee County and send it to their engineer saying, hey, you all need a better line of communication. This is not our responsibility. But we had some contacts we communicated with, and here's your options. I think that's the approach of Chris or Danny could send.
yeah. Our big thing is that, guys, this thing isn't in our park right now. It's in somebody else's, and it appears to me it's the contractor. He didn't follow the plans and specs.
Based upon Danny's analysis, Chris's our conversation, my review, I think it's the contractor also.
All right, let's keep moving. Tony, do you, or I'm sorry, Danny or Stephen, any additional engineering items? And did you have anything else for engineers?
Nope.
No.
That's it for me.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
Well, one more. Chris, has there been any contact, you'd showed me earlier, and we know about it, that we're looking at another cable line, like Comcast, only this one's, which one? Centrally? Summit. Oh,
Yes, sir.
That we're going to be running a line up Gateway Boulevard to Griffin out to the school.
Correct.
Are they directional boring?
Yes. And it looks like most of it's going to be under our equipment, but we've been working closely with the county and the right-of-way permitting and the contractor to supply them information.
Are they going to use, or are they proposing to use, the Gateway Boulevard right-of-way?
Yes.
They're going into that right-of-way.
Yeah, and there's detailed plans sitting right up here.
We just got to make sure that they are so far away after what happened over in Gateway Greens with that box culvert. I don't know how many more of those we have in those two routes. I can think of at least 5. The last thing I want to do is to see a 6 or an 8-inch bullet hole going through a pipe. Do they know? Because none of these plans have invert elevations on this stuff. How do these guys that are doing this, because I can tell you right now what they're doing, they're going to sub it to somebody, and I'll give you another deal. That sub will sub it to somebody else. By the time we'll get it down to somebody that comes from Montana that's doing the boring, that has no idea what's going on. How do we protect ourselves to avoid this happening again?
We're working up front, and there's 2 ways. We did provide them with the Alta survey from the road turnover, which shows in detail all those structure locations. We will be at risk in several areas.
So we're getting it to them so that we don't have this mess again.
Well, and one thing I think we should be thinking about, which, could have some downstream impacts, but you know, in our language that we're using as far as, you know, damage and fixing that, I think if there's a disruption, there should be an additional penalty on top of it. Something that's
I
going
don't
to,
think we can do it, can we?
No, I mean, they pay for the cost and repair.
That's all we can do. We can't do that. That's the problem.
where there's no
No
additional,
punitive cost.
yeah, no additional,
Damages, you know, for the cost to repair it and remediate.
That's about it.
well, but sometimes that, there is punitive damages or there's,
But they're not our vendor, that's the problem.
You're looking for a
yeah, but
hammer we
no, but
haven't
that's,
got.
it does,
Not in this context. I don't believe it'd be damages.
That's what I was afraid of.
and I wasn't really thinking about calling it punitive, but putting some other stipulations in, you
Pain
know,
itself.
well, no, just, I mean, it's almost like if you're going to do this,
Pain part.
if you damage something, you're going to pay for the damages, but there's also an additional, you know, penalty for,
Well, it's
for disruption.
it's critical for us to get to them the horizontal layout of all of our utilities, including the stormwater system, and a notice, especially on the stormwater system, that you're going to have to pothole, just like what we were talking about a while ago. You're going to have to pothole because I don't know that we have anything that shows invert elevations that you could readily find, that if the guy's going along and, for example, right down there by Brown Academy, we have a 4x5 box culvert going underneath the road. I can't tell you, is it from the ground level down to that box culvert 4 feet, 3 feet, 5 feet, or 6 feet? Whatever they set their grade at, they need to know that, because otherwise they'll do the same thing that happened that
Yeah,
Brian knows
punch it
about
through it.
over at Gateway Boulevard. They'll go right through it.
Who's doing this?
Well, I think the difficulty is
Summit.
it's in a county.
Summit.
Summit Church?
But it's all happening in.
No,
Yeah.
somebody, it's like Comcast. Just two things I want to add. I can
But
tell
like,
you,
who's authoring the work?
oh, I don't know yet. I don't think we know yet.
My understanding is it's in the Lee County right of way. Lee County issues the
Permit.
Yeah, but
authorization permit.
who's the cable on this?
Summit's a cable company.
I understand that. Lee
School to
County
school.
School, that's what I'm trying to, who's authoring the work? So the school,
That's
they're
what it
running
ends
lines for
up.
the
Yeah,
school.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
All right.
yeah. I just want to make sure that we're covered after what happened over at Gateway Greens because of the issue of some of our as-bills have a little flakiness to them. So we want to make sure that we got ourselves covered, that they know those utilities are there.
I'm sorry. go ahead.
Okay, two things maybe we can do. Could we set up a pre-meeting like how Kenny has done with Gateway Greens? Maybe one with Brian and one with Kenny and kind of work some of the stuff out?
Your problem with that, Flavia, is that you're dealing with, and we did it with Gateway Greens. We had a great meeting. The problem was the sub didn't come to the meeting. And the sub, he doesn't speak English. That's your problem.
Well, that's one. And then second, Doug, I can tell you this, with CenturyLink, we actually are filing suit with litigation and it's going, and they're filing one their insurance.
Well, I'm trying to avoid that. I
And
think
that,
if we
we're trying to avoid that too. And now it's just a waste.
if we have the meeting, I think the meeting's a great idea.
It's tough.
The meeting's a great idea, but it has to be mandatory that all subs that are going to be involved in the work have to be at the meeting.
Well, I think one other issue, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, if I've got my projects wrong. I thought there was a request to Lee County asking that Lee County require, as part of the right-of-way permit, to have the district named as an additional insured.
Yes, I have that certificate for you today to
Good.
comment back to them on.
If the district is an additional certificate.
They are not at the moment, but we're also trying to get our name and our restrictions on the permit issued by the county.
Okay,
Okay, all right, great. So,
we're trying.
thank you. That's
At
it.
least we know about it.
That's it for engineering. District manager report.
And I have a number of things on here, and I wanted to bring up a couple in particular if anyone has any questions, but we did get a request this week for a letter of availability from the Worthington vacant parcel for 576 multifamily residential units
All right.
to put on that vacant parcel. So I have the letter, the request for the letter. The owner is Worthington Holdings LLC. The owner's representative is Development Realty and Davis Development. So I have
Single
all that
family or
information.
multifamily?
Multifamily.
Multifamily.
And they aren't sure on the product type yet. They may even actually have some single family and then some townhouses and then some multi-story multifamily.
All ingress egress off of Daniels Parkway.
Looks like it at the moment.
Comes another one.
They don't have, they're not at the point where they've got any renderings, right? Any,
No.
Any conceptual?
This is all preliminary right now, looking at availability, and they don't even have a site plan with the unit layout.
Okay.
Great.
So Daniel's Preserve, and I sent this over to them too, that let them know that they'll have some new neighbors.
Just look to the southeast.
Yeah.
And all those good things we put in the permit criteria manual.
Correct.
apply.
And they understand that the surf will be up during the summertime when all the water from Timber Creek comes flowing across the FPL easement through their property.
And with the issue down at Commerce Lakes and the utility, it doesn't take away from, they've spent about $532,000 of the $732,000 budget. We're literally like 2 weeks away from completing the utility work, and the gateway portion of that work will be done, and we will be out of that project. After that, I'll be paving.
Okay. Any questions for district manager? Okay.
Is the business report going to be yours, Chris, or is that going to be somebody else?
Laura's.
Okay.
Laura will give that, and that's
Okay.
up next.
Okay.
Okay, Laura. You're up.
We lost her.
Thank you. Okay, Tony gave part of my update already with the ADT Stony Brook update. We did deposit that check on the 23rd. And since I'm on PTO this week, I actually have not logged in to verify that it hasn't been returned, but I'm assuming that it's all good. The HR update, we talked about that briefly already with the rewritten handbook. I did take that new handbook and compare it side by side with our existing handbook to make sure that all of the policies that were in the existing handbook are in the new handbook as well. So there's nothing missing from the original handbook. We just need to refresh it. Kenny or Leslie will talk a little bit about the budget update. Kenny would like to do his enterprise fund budget workshop next week or next meeting on the 20th. I believe that that's something that you need to vote on. It comes up later in the meeting. The President's Council meeting is next week, Wednesday, which we had talked about at our last board meeting. The official meeting is from 4:30 to 6. There's a meet and greet from 4 to 4:30, and that'll be down the street at the Trinity Lutheran Church. We've got that all reserved, and we'll have that ready to go. And then the last thing on my report is the district engineer contract expiration. The Tetra Tech contract is up this year at the end of September. There's no auto renewal option in the contract. I did verify that with Tony. And Chris and I have been talking, and we'd like to take a different approach when we put the bid out this time. And instead of having one engineer do all of our district work, because we're so diversified, and there's a lot of engineers who have skills in the specific type of projects and work that we're doing, we'd like to have a pool of engineers that specialize in the type of work that we're doing, so we can have an engineer that does what we're looking to have done do that job, rather than have one engineer sub it out and then we pay extra to have them sub out the work to another engineer.
Comments?
And that's all I have.
1 second. And Laura, just to come back really quick to the HR update. Have we secured the HR resource?
Oh yeah, they are on board. I gave everybody's contact information to her. Chris, Brian, Kenny, and Austin can contact her for training. I had my interview with her a week ago, last Thursday before I was off, and so she's all on board. She's ready to go. We also have a different payroll representative as part of this update, and I've been working with her as well. So I'm talked to everybody under the new HR update. So we're all good to go. We're on board. She's working away in the background. She's going to report back to me next week. We discussed the places where I knew that there were I had identified with you as well, that there's issues like with the job descriptions, making sure the employee files are all up to date. She talked about the training online and different types of training that we can do, and being flexible, because I realize that not everyone can be in the office all day to do training. So we're trying to make sure that we get the training rolled out to the team that needs to get done in the most efficient way with the least work disruption. So there's a few nuances we're working through. But yeah, we're all on board. That started with our last payroll last week, so we're all up and running.
Yeah, so can you just schedule a meeting with me, you, and that person, within the next 2 weeks? And then I think it might be pertinent just to share that person's information with the board.
Okay.
Okay. And then questions for Laura? And I think you have one.
Yeah, first one is we have that President's Council meeting, and I think earlier some of the issues that came up in the citizens' comment that we need to prep people on to talk about relative to the ponds. And then the second one is on, we're going to talk about later, is the park improvements. Somehow, some way, it seems to me that we'll be more effective if we use these 45 or 50 associations to get the feedback of what their residents want to see. Rick at Montes, go do X, Y, Z. I think the point that was made from the audience is that when are you going to get the input of the residents, what they want?
Yeah. So
I would say that at that meeting, we need to come up with something, whether it be a Survey Monkey recommendation or something. I'd like to see a page, no more than a page, of questionnaires that we send out to the residents via the neighborhood associations, for lack of a better term, to get a vote of what our residents want to see. The last thing I want to do is, I remember 10, 12 years ago, no, good God, it's been long time, 14 years ago, yeah, when we almost had a public hanging in this community over a disastrous decision made on the parks without getting the public input. I wouldn't want to try to do that stunt again. So I think we need to get their help to poll their citizens and their residents as to what's going on. So that's my comment on the President's Council meeting.
Just for the President's Council really quick. So our structure, what it's going to be is we're going to have kind of a meet and greet prior to. We're going to talk about the structure and the value and why we're pulling this council together in the first section, just probably a 10 or 15 minute overview. And then discussion point per meeting. Now, for the first meeting, we didn't want to try to boil the ocean. So when you hear the topic, you'll laugh a little bit, but it's around infrastructure. So we're going to give an overview of our infrastructure, what's going on, how do we get here, where we're going tomorrow. And that's a pretty broad topic, but we don't want to hold people there more than an hour and a half. And it'll be a start and a stop, very strict on that. And then we're going to get quotes from each representative that is there on the top items that they either have interest or concerns or whatever from their different communities. Then we'll correlate that. And I think we can tee up in that conversation, hopefully as a part of their priorities would be, the parks area. But I agree with you. We need to get something out, but we just need to plan for it.
Well, here's my problem. I'm looking at the contract that Montes has presented, and their timeline is moving out pretty quickly. And I'm going to bring up here later on a discussion about what people want to see in this community. I've gotten about 90 emails from residents that want to see something done, and they don't want to see engineering reports that take 2, 3, 4, 5 years to develop.
Yeah.
They want to see the engineering report, which shows the plan, but I want to see phase 1 and I want to see dirt moving. So my thing is that if we're going to have a report that Rick's going to be putting together and his staff's going to be doing, let's get the input quick so that we get these residents coming back and tell us, because I'd like to see phase 1 of this plan develop yet this year. We had a handful of gentlemen come over here, and on that, we jumped and put in a bocce court. I've got 90 people that want pickleball. So my point is, without going into that, we'll talk about it later.
So I think the point is we'll make sure
I want to have a discussion.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll address it in depth in the first President's Council meeting, but I think in parallel we can work on putting a survey together and getting that in front of the board for approval, and then getting it out to the community. We can use that conduit as the President's Council, the HOAs, whatever. So
we'll let them know then that's coming.
Yeah, we can say, hey, that's what we're working on. So we can do that. And then help us push it.
Or if we can even have a form of a Survey Monkey that they take and send out to their residents to come back. The only thing I'm trying to figure out is, I want to make sure that before we take and start spending a lot of money, and especially having Rick take off going down the road, and we're talking about, for example, a recreational building or a community building. Right now, what I'm hearing in my community, you do that and I'm going to fry you.
Well, you
Don't
but your
try
community
that
also have
study.
spent, millions of dollars
Yeah.
in a country club that other communities don't have. So
No,
we've got to
no,
weigh that.
No, that's
We
not
gotta weigh
true. You're wrong.
I'm
We
not
have-
wrong.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you're dead wrong. We have 350 people in our community out of 1,400 belong to the country club.
But I can tell you, Ed,
We
and
got 200 outside Gateway.
I'm gonna give it to
So it's
Chris.
not right.
I'm gonna give it to Chris. Chris is probably gonna be the best voice on this because he has been the one that's going to every meeting with those HOAs. And every time that he sits there and he tells it, the feedback, when he talks about getting the pool, I think the feedback is being very positive. I don't think it was much negative, but I do believe that we do put a Survey Monkey out. I think it's really important that when we put the Survey Monkey out, we tie into addresses, because the last thing I want is a fiasco like we had it with the high school and their name. And then we can really tie it in and say, you know
You have to
what?
require what
We-
community you're
You
in.
know
No, I
what?
mean,
We
that's why
put your
we break
address
down.
and then we maybe a surprise when we may know Gateway Greens, it may be exactly what you say, it may be opposite, they may be, But I think-
The point I'm making, before I spend money having Rick go out and do a study, I want to make sure that he comes back with something that our residents want.
Well, I think
when
the
it comes
major
to
point- well, I think-
recognition, yes.
excuse- I think the major point is before we spend a significant amount of money, we need to know, the residents need to know what that design is. And that's early on, is before you know it, we had a rendering, we had 18 tennis courts and other things that people are like, hey, this isn't what I put down in the survey and this is not what top 5 priorities
See,
were.
That didn't cause the problem. What caused the problem was $7 million.
Well, and it was
That's
a
what caused
$1.5
the
million
problem.
amphitheater and some other things.
Okay, let me go
let's
on.
keep
All
moving.
right, go on.
Yeah.
The next item-
The last part of the president's meeting is we're finally going to have a conduit.
Yes.
You have the voices come up through an organized group. And when you have commonality from community to community of what's important, that's going to be great direction for this board, as opposed to some, very vocal people that are isolated pockets.
Right.
The key is
Because we gotta-
hopefully we will get out of the 55 or 60 HOAs, we'll get a majority of them.
Well, that would be optimistic. This is going to grow once they see we respond.
Well, and we have to, and
We
what I
have to
what I
deliver.
told staff was what's most important is this first meeting has to provide value.
That's exactly right.
And
We've
this
gotta
is the,
deliver.
this is the most important meeting. We have,
Yeah.
it has to be structured appropriately, it has to be valued, and we got to get them in and out of there in an hour and a half.
We intend to hear, we want to know what's important, and we will act appropriately.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Second item I've got.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just from a general format, the meet and greets one-on-one with the residents beforehand.
That's just.
The meet and
People that
greet.
want to arrive early.
Right, what I'm saying is that each individual board member, please don't stand together when you talk with them.
Yeah,
And-
okay.
And if the resident says, hey, I just talked to Ed, and Bob, Ed told me on this thing, he said, can't tell me. So I just want to make sure there's no sunshine law.
Yeah,
issues by the meet and greet.
Thank you for bringing that up.
We'll have our own little red circle study.
Well, 12 feet apart. It's not a CDC, it's a sunshine law guy.
The next item I've got on the management report, and I was flabbergasted when I read it, is this district engineer contract declaration. Has everybody read the Florida statute? Relative 720? We're required to have a district engineer, people.
Correct. I think what the concept is that you would go out for a CCNA proposal for a district engineer, and then also have a CCNA for other scopes of engineering services.
Oh, I don't have any problem with that.
I
My
think
point
that's-
is
I think
that
that's
this
the-
looked like
There
it was.
will be a district engineer.
There will be
Correct.
a district engineer, but I just did some research. In the last 3 years, about the only thing that we had was geotechnical and surveying that were services that were rendered that were via a subcontract to, lack of a better term, avoid the issues of procurement. That's all we did,
Well-
to a tune of about $50,000 to $60,000, which on a markup at 10 to 12%, somewhere around $8,000.
Well, I
We
think
get the tail wagging a dog here, people.
Well, here, let me stop you so we don't go down a rabbit hole here. I think what we need to do is we probably need to just have a workshop where we're going to openly discuss what our engineering needs are. And then whether staff recommendation or the board can weigh in on where we think things have worked well, where there's opportunities and options for future.
Well, my deal is I am absolutely totally opposed to anything that's different than what we have been doing, other than if you want to take and subcontract out and go through procurement proposal for a geotechnical or a surveying of those tasks when they come, if they come, because you can't do them ahead of time because you don't have a defined scope of work. You don't have it.
one other example, I'm not trying to take any work out of anybody's offices or coffers, but for example, the Pelican Reserve Boardwalk construction project. that, that was almost like a marine contracting project, and there's a different scope and a different engineer for that. And we went through the,
Bid it separately.
again, the engineer that was involved in that's a specialized marine consulting engineer.
But Tony, we didn't initiate that.
No,
in this
but what
board.
I'm saying.
That
is-
was started by Pelican. It got screwed up like Hogan's goat. And then we
Okay.
came in.
So
and
let me pull
we were
back.
right.
We're not having a discussion on the engineering contract at this point. Staff has put this in that they're making us aware that the contract expires. It's not an auto renewal, so we need to do something. What I propose, we have a workshop. We can openly talk about options, what our individual opinions are, and then hopefully we will be able to say, let's look at this more broadly. Are there multiple options, and what is the right option for us? Do what we're doing today, do something different, do hybrid,
I'll
whatever.
hold all comments till.
Well, I'm going to, Bill, I'm going to do your expression that you have used. I'm not going along with that at all. That simple. I'm not going along with that at all. What we've got is a damn good system, and why do we want to screw it up?
Well, and maybe that's what will come out of the workshop is we don't change
I've got
anything.
better things to do than to talk about something that I am absolutely, totally opposed to.
Well, then don't attend. I mean, it's pretty
I
simple.
have the prerogative, Doug.
I know.
I'm a board member just like you.
I know. I'm not arguing that. I'm saying, but if you're openly saying you don't want to participate,
When
you have the right not to participate.
I've never heard you tell Bill do that when he said the same thing.
Said what?
Never heard you
Not-
say a word about that.
Not participate?
When Bill says, I'm not going to do that, and that's my position, nobody said a word about that. Don't attend. I find
And I'm
that's
not-
kind of
I'm
funny.
not saying that
Shoes on the other
I'm not
foot
saying I
now
don't
here.
disagree with you.
All right,
And you're
guys,
close.
let's go on.
I tell
Respectfully,
you,
I'm
not
not
gonna put
trying
up
to,
with that.
I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to disrespect what your statement is. I'm just saying, in order for us to make a decision, we need to do it collectively. And we all might agree that,
In my opinion,
moving
this should have not even have been, in my opinion, a staff issue to us. Couldn't even have been.
okay. Well, we can discuss or choose not to in the future. So, okay, let's continue. Anything else you have?
No.
Okay. Anything else for for business manager? Utility manager?
That's
Or
Leslie.
billing?
Leslie Rhetoric, Utility Billing Manager. Just some points to review over the last bill cycle. Santa Luz, we are not leading that property. We were advised that Lennar is purchasing the remaining vacant properties, and we had issued an estoppel with the outstanding balances. So we expect to collect all the outstanding balances during the connection fee process. So that should be resolved. Credit card fees, we started a little bit over 12 months ago. At the 6-month mark, we were a little under, and over the last 6 months, we've just had a large amount of payments come in. So the structure is going to change because we had estimated 2% or $2.95 per transaction based on the prior history. And we found that that was a little too high. We had high payers. So after reviewing the last 6 months of transactions, we think that fee should really be lower. So at about 1.2% of the transaction. So that's going to go down. And then I'll also update the language when we do the rate study to say that we will annually be revising the amounts. Code Red, that's up for renewal in November, so I'm already shopping and just comparing pricing. And so there's different options.
Do we know what I think you might have answered this before, but do we know what our sign up rate is for
It's just under 15%.
is what's using it today?
Yeah.
15%.
So I have looked at different options because this is our 3rd year, and it will be our 3rd year. And the same type of product I've comped out, and it's double the price. So our price was a little bit lower because we locked in when Lee County was using. Since then, Lee County has left Code Red, and they're under a state-funded.
What is Code Red?
Code Red is a mass notification system that customers have to enroll, and then they get notified throughout different branches of police, fire, or
Like almost like
water.
an emergency
Boil
management
water
system.
notice,
Yeah.
things
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. Okay.
yeah.
So you have to enroll for that. And
Okay.
once you enroll, then you receive all the notices.
I mean,
There's-
I think due diligence is great, but with an application like this, it's almost better to, especially if the cost is right, to stick with it.
Right.
Because you can always increase if you change over, you stand to losing a part of that 15% that you currently had. So,
Right.
but I appreciate the due diligence, and unless there's another product that is just better,
Yeah.
you know.
Because of the pricing, something would have to be substantially less
Yeah.
for me to have.
We just need to figure out how we socialize it even more.
Right.
You know, there's almost like a campaign that we should be running.
Yes.
You know, are you code red? You know, gateway and code red, and you know. 'Cause
Yes, they did roll out.
It's one of the best mechanisms we have, other than some of the social media stuff to get stuff out.
Right.
But that should be one of our primary, communication delivery applications.
Yeah, they did roll out a new feature where I'm allowed to send out mass enrollment opt-in by text. So.
So you can do that for all the billing?
Yes. And I was told, Tony, you have to correct me, but I was told that I'm permitted to
Yeah,
do
yeah, I
that
think you
one
can do it.
time. To everyone that has a phone number in our billing system.
I'll double check. I don't know, if it's an FTC or FCC or.
Yeah. So that's my review on
Well,
COVID.
and just one really quick, because when you look into that, Tony, that is part of our emergency response. So as you look at it, it's not just district updates. It is
Right.
the primary use is emergency response.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, okay.
Is this to use an email?
No, it's through your phone. It's
Oh, through
it's
the
an
phone.
app. So it's called Code Red is the app, and you get alerts through it.
And other than that, on the next bill, I'll be releasing the water quality report that was approved by the health department. We're working on lead and copper preliminary sampling, so we'll start getting a list for that. That should probably be done in July. That's all I have, unless there's any other questions.
Anything for Leslie? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you opting out, Kenny? No updates? Oh, okay. It's like 2 board meetings in a row, which is not a bad thing, because normally when you pull up the podium, there's dollars associated with it.
Yeah.
So,
Good
okay.
afternoon,
wallet
Brian
hurts.
Brashear, Public Works Manager. A few things here. We have the stormwater maintenance report. Elle and I, we looked at this and we had a few columns onto this. This inspection report, ponds are inspected monthly. Your aerators are inspected quarterly with a vendor. You have your conservation areas inspected quarterly with Southwest Florida Water Management, a few other people. This is just example of March and April. We'll start supplying these monthly, so you'll know.
And Brian,
what's
this is,
going on.
so, and when you say March to April, it doesn't say specifically when that pond was reviewed on that date. And the only reason why I say this is because when Justin came up and he showed, hey, this is a pond with algae on it. Flavia could probably speak to it because she's had firsthand experience, but this algae blooms can come up in a matter of,
It's
exactly.
in my backyard.
And that was my point is this is one thing we have to communicate to residents is we go out and check these ponds. Right now, we're in that bloom season. Because we're starting to get hotter, and I'm sure there's certain time periods of the year. So that's where we have to make sure, hey, your pond may be great on Monday. By Friday, you might have a bloom.
Well, that's correct. And I'll speak more into it because you can go out there today, it's all fine. You come back 2 days later or a storm blows through, it's a whole different scenario.
Yeah.
With the 80-something ponds we are inspecting, like I say, I mean, we can put a day we inspected if you wish to have that added to it. We can do that for that pond.
I mean, I think
You know,
just for, okay, good.
We
I mean,
will-
just in case if somebody, disputes the findings,
we will.
because even 30 days is a pretty big window.
we will-
It will be different. You
We
got
will,
ponds in
we
a
will
day.
put a date
Yeah.
and a time that we inspected that pond.
And I would just probably, if you stick on that, are you going to the same order every month?
No.
So it's completely random? Okay.
Try to see as many as possible and go in and see it, look at it from a different side or ride around the pond totally on the buggy sometimes.
Okay.
Question. Ponds, the flowway from pond 95 to pond 130, which is essentially the heart of Gateway, was excluded. Any reason?
No, I just didn't happen to see it at that point.
Okay.
Pond 90, can you say those again?
Well, the flowway from 95 all the way to 130, the main
Oh,
flowway.
you're talking about the Trump Fine Pond. Those will be on my next inspection.
Okay. So you're going to be doing these.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So basically, you can't get every pond in a month.
It's,
So,
you could, but you're hitting almost 3 a day.
yeah.
You got 22 working
And
days
that's a
in month.
full-time job.
That's
Oh,
what she
absolutely.
does.
That's a full-time job, just
I mean, it's
pond
what you would do.
inspection.
Yeah, because you're talking to 80, what, 82? 84 borrower bodies and you got 22 days inspected. That's
A
4
lot
a
of
day.
work.
It's,
Well, and the reason why I say that is, at some point, we have to determine what is the right frequency, what's the purpose? And if we require someone to be inspecting those ponds on a monthly basis, and if so, we have to find staff to do it.
And that's why we.
One
reduced it.
comment, Pelican checks 58 ponds. They have 13 people doing it. And each of these individuals have a set number of ponds, and it's handled through the pond work group. It's all volunteers. Maybe we can get there eventually.
Yeah.
But that's another way of doing it, because you can't, like you said, it's just.
But my point is, and I don't know the answer to this, if there is a value or purpose in the frequency of testing and monitoring ponds. I don't know that. We don't have to answer it today unless, if you want to come up, just so Bill can hear you.
How about, but do you want to have Brian finish?
Yeah,
Then-
yeah.
Then
yeah,
we'll
okay.
go.
Yeah, I did derail
Otherwise,
you, man.
I'll
I'm sorry.
be
it's
all over the
okay.
place.
You're fine.
Okay.
Well, I'll let her speak before we jump into the general fund budget because that's a whole different. But you want to go ahead?
Okay. What was the question?
So the question is, one, I think since you're here, it's probably beneficial just to state why we need to monitor these ponds. What are we monitoring? And the frequency that we monitor them, is there a method to that madness? Like, should we be monitoring ponds on a monthly basis versus in a rotation that might take us 2 months because of the staff
long.
availability?
It's too long.
Well, first of all, let me make it clear that every time I leave this building, whether I'm going over to a specific pond or not, if I pass pond 102, I am looking over at pond 102.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop and I'm going to look at 195, whether or not.
Right.
it is
So there's
or
always
not-
casual
whether or
surveillance.
not
Right.
It's
Okay.
my mission to do that at that point or not.
Okay.
It's in your
Right.
blood. You can't stop looking at them.
I think the big
I
thing
check
goes,
them out. I don't care what community I'm in. I don't care if it's Gateway or Pelican or I'm up,
Right.
up late, up
But how
the
long does
road
it-
at Lakewood Branch.
How
I'm
long
gonna
does it
look at
take
their
you to get
ponds.
through all the ponds?
Pardon me?
How long does it take you to get through all the ponds?
Gosh, I couldn't tell you really. I mean, I look at as many as possible. I can look at probably, and this is not walking the entire perimeter.
Spot
But-
checking.
But if I'm not wrong, I think what you're doing is really checking on the performance of our providers.
That's correct. I
They
go
are the
out,
ones that do the job.
Well,
I
that's
go
a
out and
that's a
look.
point of
And
clarity.
they check X number of times per week, whatever they, or per month by the
Yes.
contract. It's usually at least twice a month. And then we're doing the conformational spot check.
Spot check.
Well,
Right, I can tell when I go out there, if they tell me they treated this pond for torpedo grass, I can tell you if that grass was treated or not within the next 7 days. I know what it's called
Yeah.
epinasty, when the cells inside start to explode. I know what the plant looks like when these things start to happen.
Okay.
My
Okay,
point is that
so
you're
I
not
am
the primary
following up
line of
to check
defense.
on
We're
the
providing pond
effectiveness of the
oversight.
treatment.
Oversight
and-
of our providers.
Yeah.
the good example would be right now, and the reason I brought it up, is Pond 116 has got a lot of floating material. And if we see it, whether it's on your schedule, if we saw a issue, it ought to be on that list. So that vendor knows that, hey,
And I totally agree, Ed, except if the vendor was told to spray something. I mean, when he sprays it, it's gonna die and fall over. And it's gonna take about 30 days to go away.
Exactly.
And Elle will know that, I'll know that, but just because you see something doesn't mean there's a problem.
Or it
Could
hasn't
be a
been
guy did
treated.
his job.
yeah,
Exactly.
my thing is it didn't matter whether I see it, I want her to know that it was sprayed.
And,
Right.
and she'll know
That's
that
the
by their reports,
Yeah.
but you're absolutely right.
And a lot of what you're seeing out there right now, and particularly in your pond, is the water levels have dropped. You're seeing the hydrilla and Kara. They turn yellow. They look like algae floating around out there too. And as they are drying out, they're dying off. Yeah, they'll come back again next year with the water
Absolutely.
levels, and the water levels rise. But as a submersed vegetation, if they get, the water levels drop and they're exposed, they turn yellow and it just looks like a mat of algae. Some ponds do have a mat of algae, so the mats are not excessive or out of control at
Okay.
this point.
It's just a natural cycle.
It is a natural cycle. And again, I was just on wetland.org. Dr. Ernesto had a wonderful presentation webinar on pond algae. It's not all bad. Some of that algae that you see, that filamentous algae, is actually they're using up the nutrients in your pond. That's why you have algae. It's using it up. When there's no more nutrients, you will have no more algae.
So that's part of just
It's
education.
part of the
Acclimating our
process.
residents to what the cycles are.
Part of the process.
Doug,
Some
I,
algae
I
is
kind of, I think it's really important, and I really wish Justin was here, but I kind of want to go into this, what he brought us. So I literally want to go page by page. So I want to go into the two, like the page one, which I'm assuming the 2 ponds that he's looking at. So going to this picture that he showed us and this amount of algae. So our document says that any algae that it's above 25% of the size of the pond needs to be removed. So when you're looking at a pond that is this size and you're looking at this amount of algae, this is normal. This is
exactly right.
nothing. Should look like this. This is acceptable. The vendor is
And
doing
if the wind shifts, it's going to go to the other end the next day.
The vendor is not doing a good job. Is doing an excellent job if this is all you have. If you're looking that this is the size of the pond. Now, granted, if the pond looks the size of this room and this is what you have, then there's a problem. But if the pond is this size and this is what you have, then that's okay. Per our standards, page 7, if there's no littoral, if there's a littoral compliance, littoral requirement, no littoral requirements 10%. If there is a littoral requirements 25%. So this is right. There's nothing here that's wrong. When you look at the second page that he has, and he says that this is beautiful and this is how it should look. Well, looking at this, you can definitely see the erosion in here and how bad it is.
Absolutely.
So this pond no longer qualifies as a removal for littorals. So next time that whoever lives here, and I don't know who it is, requests the removal, it should be denied because there is such a huge erosion that has been caused by removal of the littoral, or let's say it was not, it just naturally was this way. This does not qualify anymore because it's only going to make the matters worse. So if you look at page 4 of the documents that we have, it says that this pond no longer qualifies for removal of littorals because it has an erosion
It's
problem.
not in good standings.
It's not a, so fine. So then now this one I agree. I'm assuming that this is fire flag.
That right there is bulrush and definitely should be cut down.
That I
and
agree
treated.
100%.
Absolutely.
So it's 3 feet above ground, above
Right.
water. This needs to be trimmed.
Absolutely.
So this is
Yes,
something that needs to go with our vendor.
yes.
This needs to be taken care of ASAP, page 4 of our document. So I agree to certain
And
things.
it
I
didn't
agree
get there quickly. That's the other part. The vendor
It
should have
did
been
not-
on this.
That's right,
Yeah.
He should have been on it.
right.
So this, I 100% agree with Justin. It needs to be
Yep.
taken care of it.
I would
This
too.
one is a tricky one. Okay, rocks are not garbage or debris. So rocks are going to be there. You know, I don't necessarily, I know why am I.
The echo's coming from the computer.
So, I'm not going to address that. The canna,
I think it was yours.
okay.
Nope. I guess it was mine. Sorry.
Maybe the canna, the height of the canna, the only thing is, if you trim this canna, would it be right? I don't know, all you're gonna have is stick. Right now, so it's gonna look like really horrible. Right now, it's probably the time that they may bloom beautiful flowers, but if that's something that they want, trim half, it's gonna look horrible. But that is the only thing that I could see here.
Does this die out?
No. this
Canna,
looks
no.
beautiful. This looks just
What
like.
they
does
do,
it-
Doug,
does it
what
expand
they
out?
do, Doug, is they will trim it to the root.
Yeah.
But I mean,
And then it comes back.
does it expand?
Yes.
It comes back each year and
So if
grows,
you,
and we're
if you don't
encouraging this.
maintain it, it'll take off. Because I
Well,
think it's pretty.
But only within this zone. It'll go around the whole pond if you do it.
If you let, okay.
But as they trim it, they take it down to the ground. That's a health maneuver, and then it grows back each year.
And do you remove it though?
No, we never remove it. We love it.
So
We have
I-
not gotten any complaints from people because they flower. They
Yeah.
look pretty.
So Doug, this one, it looks very similar to Firefly. So Firefly, it's horrible. It looks horrible, but this is actually pretty. Like
Mhm.
if everyone had this, I don't think it would be a problem. So maybe he's maybe confused. I don't know if this could be Firefly and that's why he would want it. Firefly, I would just say remove it. I
Well-
can have it in any pond because it's horrible. It's
And it
ugly.
usually only grows in what we would refer to as the bathtub ring. So in other words, as the pond's going down is when it starts, and it makes the bank look a lot less ugly.
Yeah.
It's an enhancement, and that's why we're encouraging it.
So addressing this, I do think is education. I do think we are following the standards. If this is what he's bringing, I cannot speak in regards to testing. I am assuming that testing has to do with the TSI. Is that why there's an increase? Because TSI is only done by Ernesto's lab versus,
That's correct.
okay,
And we've established that doing testing without TSI is almost
yeah.
not
So-
worth it.
That helps, but everything's comparable.
And we're not doing testings on ponds, like any specific ponds.
We
like-
are testing the basins.
We're
and-
testing only the basins, but because the lab that we're taking it, they were not doing the TSI testing, which is
Okay.
what we needed that's probably what
Okay.
the cost.
That's why the cost.
Is there a system in place to take those tests and compare it to the vendor supply tests? Do you do that?
Do where? I'm sorry?
The vendor supply, the vendor's got to do it a couple times a year. Do you take his data?
What vendor? I'm not.
Aquagenics, it's in
No,
it?
that is not in our contract.
Oh, we got it in our contract.
We
Okay.
have Sanders Laboratory come out once a month to our 5
You have
basin
something
weirs
different, I'm
and
okay.
do a sample.
You have something different. Pelican, the vendor does it. We compare Ernesto's data with his.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Well, I can't take them to Ernesto anymore.
And then the final thing is, I think, and then I'll go with you, Bob, on this. Removal, I think that spraying, it is a form of removal.
Absolutely.
And I think manually is a form of removal. So when we went in contract with Aquagenics, and we didn't go in contract with them last year, we've been doing Aquagenics or whoever we had before, it's spraying. And as you said, once you spray, it goes through a very ugly process for 30 days. It looks dead and then it floats and it eventually goes away. And there's nowhere in our contract and on our guide that it says that it needs to be removed by hand. It does say that if it doesn't die, they have to go back and spray it again. Now, for algae, it does say that if they spray for algae and if 15 days later the algae still exceeds the 25%, they must remove it by hand or manually. But it does not say anything about the littoral. So there's also a misconception about the removal.
Well, the one thing I would mention, I totally agree with everything you said, except that when the bulrush is getting too large and they have to spray it and get it out, we hold them accountable for letting it get too large, and they will come in and physically remove it without a penny of cost to us.
And they will here.
That's the variable.
And
Is if it's there
Yes,
and
they
bad
will.
because of their negligence, then it's on
They
them.
will.
And then I was, and I don't
They will
know.
cut it, remove it, and
Yep.
then spray the cut in.
And I guess I'll address this with Jim, but maybe it was not in that location, but I don't know where the algae, the littorals on that pond was blocking the outlet, because I was there on 4:15 with Brian and I was there on 4:30 and I didn't see it, because actually that was those pictures. Actually, this is the same pictures I show you guys the last meeting, and you can see it and there's nothing blocking. So I was surprised to see an email from another resident from Silver Lakes, and it wasn't Jim saying it was blocking, because I had a pictures from 5 days.
Well, what I
before.
heard was it was close to the opening. He's expecting a 3-foot zone of nothing.
But there's nothing.
Well, I can't tell. It's a side angle. I can't.
So unless it's a different location, that's
I don't
why.
know what location you're looking at, but it does say in the standards that inlet and outlet structures, there has to be outside of 3 feet on all sides.
Right.
And I agree.
And then if you're looking at the one that's going from Lake 85 to Lake 88.
Okay, then it's a different location, because that's not what this is.
It is going right up to,
This is not the right, so it's a different location, okay.
and it's, there's more than one in Soda Lakes like that.
Okay.
It's also, it's not just the front. The standard-
I totally agree, 'cause that's a different.
May I
location.
add something here, please?
Sure.
That particular structure from 85 to 88, which I was just at recently to mark 2 more lots for spray out, that is a head wall. There is spike rush
not in front of the head wall, not in front of the wing walls. You know what I'm referring to,
Mhm.
Mr. T. It comes out, there is spike brush behind the wing wall. There is not spike brush in front of that structure. I was just there.
It's not blocking the pipe.
There is nothing that would impede that water flow through that pipe whatsoever. It's
But
as
the
clear as,
standard-
I could swim into it.
But the standard says 3 feet all sides. It doesn't say.
I'm not gonna clean you don't want to. I'm sorry,
Well,
let
but
me
if the standard
rephrase.
says that, I think we have. to
The
give
top of
standard.
that
Modify
control.
the standard, possible.
But if the standard
With
says that,
common
I have to
sense.
side with, so it says Latour's plants will not exceed the 3 feet and a half at this point.
That might be an opportunity to modify.
Okay,
language.
we can, that's a
Well,
discussion
no,
point.
you need to understand this. You are going to ask me to go out and remove the vegetation from on top of the head wall, on top of the pipe, and leave an exposed bare pipe there. Now, all of that dirt is gonna wash off and go in the pond. And now your entire head wall and pipe will be exposed with nothing, no soil, no vegetation, nothing.
You're talking about a low water level,
Pardon me?
low water level.
That's correct.
Oh, next time, we take a couple pictures of that, just so we can have,
I will be happy.
okay, great, thank
Okay.
you, appreciate it. Just so we can have some context on what you're,
Did that help that?
that was actually really good to walk through these, and, because
But you,
the 25% of the algae is one thing I was aware of, but you don't really think of it in context of the full body of the lake.
the one issue you got that is continued to be ignored, that Justin is pointing out, is that one picture where it has the combination of the erosion and the drop-offs. It's in an area where there's not a requirement for littorals on the original design. What am I missing here? Why didn't the county tell it that it's 100% all the way around the pond? That would have stabilized the lake bank.
Mhm.
So what are we going to do? How are we going to get around that problem?
And that's where the
That's
DO
where-
is silent, is that where you're?
Yeah, the issue is that if you were going to do this right, and you've got these soils that we have, which are for crap, they're lousy soils.
Sand soil, yeah.
You can't maintain a 4-to-1. You got a
So let me ask
chance
you,
with
let
a
me get your
6-to-1.
opinion on this,
The-
and actually, everyone, because I'm sitting with 3 probably pond experts, and I'm not, which puts me at disadvantage. So, and this has been somewhat my position, but again, I play a little ignorance here. If the DO was silent, if it does not explicitly call out no littorals, if it's silent and it
Well-
does not, hold on, and let me just, you guys can correct me because if I'm wrong, but if the DO is silent and it does not explicitly call out no littorals, which it doesn't say it is for or against. That's where it's been my personal opinion that if the DO is silent, it falls to our pond standard, our regulations.
Interpretation
So,
and regulation.
on our policy. So we could say if your DO is silent, then it defaults back to our pond standard, our regulation in accordance with county or whatever else. So your pond may be silent on DO, but we will enforce our standard, which requires littorals and, at whatever percentage I can't remember in the pond standard. That's the way I interpret it.
What's that? And we kind of went back, and Jim can remember that, because that was my biggest thing when he said a DO is silent. What does that mean? Does that mean?
It doesn't mean no
It doesn't
littorals.
mean.
It means there's no,
Exactly.
there's no
And
standard.
Jessica, and we're like, listen, we want to see it. And it was said, listen, a DO is silent. It just doesn't address it. It just doesn't say there's a need for it, and it shall not have, it must not have littorals. So, and I think on this case, we don't have the budget to go now and fix that erosion problem. I understand that there's no requirement for it, but we have to be smart enough to see that we're causing a problem by removing it. Now, can we afford to then those areas? Not now, because we clearly cannot afford it. Later on, 5 years down the road, say, you know what, that 12 band for those areas, maybe we can keep it to 3, maybe. But right now, let's not promise residents something that we can't afford it, because once we give them the price tag, they're gonna say
We
no.
need to go through at some point with this whole ponds, like we need to go through scenario, like
Mhm.
all these what ifs and make sure we've got what our position is based on what the manual says and what we are able to enforce and adhere to. And that's the problem that we have today is we got a policy that we're not following and we can't adhere to because it's just
I
too
think
costly.
our policy does. I think that policy was very well written. We have one problem with that policy. We didn't implement it.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
That's exactly,
We
you're
did
100%.
not implement it.
And it would cost us about probably $1.5 million.
And then you
dollars
come
to
back,
implement it.
which is what I said 2 years ago.
Yep.
You're gonna choke when you see the price to do what you
Well,
got.
that's what
Now,
at some point, we're going to have that conversation.
And
And I think that's why we're
should've-
looking at this.
we
this
should have had
consultant.
that conversation earlier last year when we implemented and got the contractor to bid it and bid what we had. Then we would know what we have to do. But that doesn't resolve the issue. Hampton Park, they got 14 ponds. The first 10 were at 4-to-1 slope. The last ones were 6-to-1 slope. The ones that were the 10 that were the 4-to-1 slope called out littorals on the basis of a percentage. And I believe the number was 25%. So if you go in there and pond
At a minimum,
3.
how do you interpret that? At a minimum 25%?
No, it didn't say minimum. It
It
said
just says
25%.
which is
Yes.
again, open to
Yes.
interpretation on.
It says 25%, it's 25%. If it said minimum or a maximum, it would have been something different. It said 25%, but that's not my point. My issue is that if these people down at the county are so smart, which I don't think they are, why, and you know that the littorals installation would prevent the lake bank
Erosion,
issues.
yeah.
Why would you do 125%, not 100? When we had the professionals come in here, and one of them being Ernesto, their deal was you don't get anything more by going over 25. What am I missing here? That's telling you then that it's not effective. So how you go into an area, and that's what I think Justin was trying to talk about. That area there, that it does have escarpment and it does have erosion. The issue is if it had it and they knew that the soil was consistent, which it is in these ponds around here, because we have lousy soil, that would even be more of a reason to have 100%. We brought these questions up. People remember, God, Tony, you got to remember this. We were sitting there arguing, who's the developer at Hampton? I don't even remember now. Was it WCR or Lennar? The issue was we were arguing like hell on the takeover that why are we accepting this pile of crap you're bringing in? They come in here and put in that chicken straw trying to prevent erosion where there was not littorals. Here's a good example. It didn't work. So the issue is if littorals are that dang good, why wasn't it 100%? The issue is this thing is not one size fits all. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. Different soils react differently. We have a soil, and we found this out when we did the balloons. We bring that soil out of the bottom of the lake, we put it in the balloon, then we cut the balloon and tried to compact it. Well, you could go in there and Billy be damned, you could hammer it to hell. It wouldn't compact. It's crappy soil. The stuff that was on the shore is the stuff that eroded into the pond. It didn't stay the first time. I don't know what made anybody think it was going to stay the second time. That's why we went over to some of these drastic ways, which I'm still of the opinion is the only way to do it when you get soils like what we've got, is you get into either in severe issues with the Armamax or in the not severe issues, you go with the filter fabric.
So, Bob, you had no-
Let me just ask one question. Is there anything negative about a littoral? Other than aesthetics?
A lot of people, aesthetics is
Other than
big.
Aesthetics.
Aesthetics is big.
Okay, I
Aesthetics is right
understand
in 410.
But there's nothing negative about the littorals in terms of health of the water and health of the bank.
No, it's major aesthetic issue. A lot of people think that it's even more that it gets into danger issue because it allows snakes and gators to get in there. Big time.
Which is actually, if you think about it, when it comes to the gator, that really drives me crazy. Because if you actually have a bear bank, that's when gators come to bathe.
That's right. They
If
climb
you have
out.
littorals, it's quite opposite, because then it's too much work. They don't want to be there.
No, it's just the opposite. The people that want to take and not.
Okay, we're not,
We're not gonna agree.
with all due respect, we're not going
If
to
you have
solve this
people
here.
that want to, well, I have it on my neighborhood. People are afraid to take their dogs. And I don't care whether or not it's legal or not, or it's, you can do it. They'll take their dogs, they'll walk the dogs down along the LME. And their deal is as long as it's a stone slope and they can see, they're not feared. When they go past where the littoral's at and the gator's hiding in there, they can't see it and it scares them.
So don't go there.
Oh, I wouldn't,
Well, all right,
I
let's
wouldn't
keep
do that in
This
Gateway
is-
Greens. You say that in
Okay.
Gateway Greens, you'll be not reelected. That's what'll happen.
Brian, why don't you wrap up? I mean, not wrap up, but I'll let you continue. Let you continue.
Do you want to do the operating budget, or you want to go ahead and I can bring my guest speaker up here?
I never got to answer. One thing, I believe 10418 says this, that stormwater ponds were made to eventually mimic natural ecosystems. So once Ed does ask this question, well, what they were not put there and so forth. They were put in specific locations and they were not required to be everywhere. They were expected to propagate. They were expected
Absolutely.
to move on. That's why, because once the pond was transferred to somebody else, then it was.
It's after the fact, Flavia. It's after the fact.
Let me finish. So on the slope is a 6-1 or 4-1. It's brand new construction, just like a warranty. Nothing is gonna go wrong right away. Things will propagate. By the time the slope starts to deteriorate, guess what? Those littorals propagated and started getting good. So everything balanced itself out. And 418, I believe it does say that the goal is to make a natural and to have an ecosystem for all other reasons. That's why.
Okay. All right, Brian. Why don't you hit the, hit the dollars and then.
Okay, we'll, these are preliminary dollars that we ran through. You might want to start up top, Chris, on page 1. There you go. We raised some things like here, the contractual prices, of course, for the contractual price is $552. That would be Mainscapes, takes effect April 1st, which was in there. Tree trimming service was 60 because personal touch is 57 plus additional 2,500 for right-of-way issues. So you're looking about 60,000 for that.
And was my explanation accurate? We're doing maintenance and some isolated removal.
Well, what the maintenance does is they trim the trees back. There's no removal part of that.
Okay, so that
That's why-
60 is just trimming.
Correct.
Okay, all right. I misspoke a little.
Your irrigation repairs, that keeps going up every year. I mean, we have an outdated system. We all know that. We constantly keep getting more things done.
And does this account for the issues that the oak trees are having on the irrigation?
It basically anything out there we're having irrigation issues with, where it's oak trees, sidewalks.
And do you think that's, I mean, that seems
We're
low.
having that problem in Gateway Greens.
I
It's
mean,
age.
It every year gets worse. And be honest,
So we doubled it.
with the roundabouts going on. I've once again replaced irrigation pipes down there that wasn't on records because they're a foot deep. We have to get those out of the
Okay.
way. I mean, it's never ending. Plant replacement program, we raised that because once they're done with that roundabout, we plan on putting a lot of plants starting to get Daniels and working your way north. It was kind of put on hold this year because of all the construction. But once that's done, we like to start beautifying what we have.
We're gonna have to replace a lot too.
That we will. The tree limb removal. The reason this is in there is because any trees that are removed in the old contract, it didn't include it. Whether you got a dead pine tree out here or whether you got some tree limb that needs to be trimmed because it's over, it wasn't part of the original price. If it's an oak tree, let's around the streetlights, which we have 42 of them identified that we're not going to remove, but we're going to have to trim some of them back. We might even have to remove 1 or 2 of them. The county ever comes out here and nails us for not proper lumens on the road, folks, I don't know what to tell you. This price here won't touch it. Because the last price was 65,000 for the 42 of them that are blocking the streetlights. So that's why that money's in there. Utility fees, it's kind of insurance. We didn't touch any of that. The big one down here would be your lake maintenance. That's going up. We have a lot of stuff like right now, we're getting quotes to redo 60 down there where Margaret lives. It's going to take additional 5 truckloads of number 4 stone coming in because it's starting to come off the TRM. All the ponds that were done 3 or 4 years ago.
And that's up the high end above the low.
Yeah, above the water line.
Yeah.
So these are have to start, ponds will have to keep going back adding additional rock. Basically your wetland plantings kind of went up in price. What else do we have in here? Stormwater, pipe inspections. That 50,000 is to do next basin 4. We did 5 cost us 100,000. 4 is roughly about half that size. So I got an estimate from MRI for like 30, but I don't know if we're going to find additional pipes like we did in 5 that we didn't know about. So I put 50,000 for inspection. Repair and maintenance,
One
200,000.
one question if I can. I don't want to break your train of thought, but wetland maintenance. I know Pelican's in the middle of a rebid. They're expecting to get a significant price cut. Are you guys doing the same thing? I mean, are we doing it collectively?
Well, you guys are on a separate contract.
Yeah,
Ours was
absolutely.
ours was renewed.
Well, that's what
Already.
ours was,
And
but it has been, we took
Okay.
it over from Lennar, and we were paying 110,000, 120,000, and they're hoping to get that down significantly, about 15-20%.
What changed?
We just put it out for bids. We just accepted what Lennar gave us. Waited until we had our digestive system around it. But I just throw that out to look at it. There
Well,
may be,
the new contract that we recently renegotiate, the difference was 45,000 on that new contract for the wetland maintenance.
less than it
More.
was.
More.
Oh, you went up.
Yes.
Oh, we're
So I was
expecting to go
trying-
down.
I wonder what you were
We're
looking at.
expecting to go down. Okay,
We're going up.
never mind.
We went up due to the new contract that took place. That's why
For the same volume they had before.
Yep.
Was it Woods and Wetlands or somebody else?
we had Aquagenics. Aquagenics, and they were the cheapest one.
They chose not to.
Okay.
So that's
All right.
why that price is due to contract. If you look to the far right, you'll see per new contract. That's why that price is over there.
Okay, thank you.
The two, like I say, the 50,000 for video inspections, repair and maintenance, folks. Daniels Preserve, we got one pipe crushed already as a 48. Want to hire Rick over here to re-engineer it, to put a 24 in above it. The 48's roughly 10 feet deep. The problem is you got two pools back there. There's no way we're going to start digging on that. We would cause major issues. So Rick, MRI, which is Mike Rafford, myself, we looked at it. Rick said you can get away with a 24. It's an equalizer between ponds. So that is our next step. We're running into things, like I say, we find out developers, especially over in Daniels Preserve, why it's so bad. I think they just had a bad case of, they were mad, whatever, just threw piles of rock on top of stuff, crushed stuff. Luckily, the 3 interconnects are good. One was bad, and that's the 48. So there's things we're running into as we're going. It's
Taking us 20 years,
we're going to get it. It's
20 years to figure out that we've got rocks blocking.
your pipe and catch basin cleaning. The reason this is so high, we're $100,000 shy just on basin 5, folks. That's why we pushed those. Like when we did that pre-bid, half of those are scheduled after October. We didn't have the money to finish basin 5. That's how bad it is. So we're basically allocating 100,000 carryover to finish 5, then the rest of it will be doing 4 once we video it. He'll start videoing in October, so we'll probably get started cleaning, hopefully January, February on that. This is why these numbers are so high. This was a trial year. We figured it out once we started in 5. We're running into problems, and as you're well aware of, it's been many moons since this thing's been cleaned or inspected.
We're keeping the same people that did last time, or you're gonna go out for another bid?
Well, we already did the second bid on that
Oh.
because they're going to finish 5. Inspecting on the cameras, 25,000 or 30. I mean, I could bid that out, but we put 50. No matter who does it, it's going to be the same thing. Mike does a price about $150 a pipe. Other people are like $3 a foot. So you'll save a lot of money. If we'd have done that on basin 5, we'd have paid somebody 2.5 times what Mike was willing to do it for. Data logger maintenance, we put some money into there because our data loggers are now 3 years old.
Yeah, they were put in the-
So the batteries and stuff like that are going to need to be replaced. They only last for so long. So it's, minor. The next page, aerators. We're all aware of the fact with the aerators, we didn't have enough money for maintenance. As you're aware of the fact we're down in Stony Brook now, spending money to fix aerators, boxes and all kinds of stuff. So we're putting a line item for aerators and for electrical repairs. We don't.
And this time the bathymetric, we're not going to have to rob it to avoid doing the bathymetric study on the ponds we need to have done.
We didn't have any bathymetric study in 2020. There was no budget for it. So we're putting that back into there because I think you got some ponds that really need some bathymetric studies done on them.
Yeah, because we need to get aeration in these ponds.
Yes, sir. And what we've done is on a capital budget, and when we did that page, is we put in money for new aerators on the flowway ponds. And we'll get to that.
And hey, let me ask you just a quick question. So your drone equipment training, is that for drone? is that just for training or is that purchasing?
We
actual
bought the equipment. It's here. We didn't put a budget this year for it. Elle's been taking out back and flying it.
Yeah.
Where's the drone
It's-
equipment?
Is that-
I don't see it.
It's just at the top. It's 2,500. It's not. it's
No,
not-
that was
it's not
this year's.
standard. I was just curious if we were purchasing a drone. If
We
it was
already
training.
purchased it.
And then L, is it what you're trying to do? Because we're talking about pond monitoring. Is it what we're looking at is being able to launch the drone, have the drone do a video of, so you don't have to physically go out there as frequently. I mean, I'm sure you will, but this would be to offset that, which would probably take you less time to
Stuff
drone
you
it
can't
from
get to.
here.
You can't get to.
And you could do a flyby in less time than it would take for you to drive it.
There's several ponds. I can stand on one corner and I can see the entire pond, the whole bank. There's other ponds like Lake 116, Lake 124, Lake 58 in Stony Brook. It's a mile long. So,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
But I just want to see
I
that with
think that's a great
that's
idea.
your approach. And
Yeah,
plus you
that's-
can video it, you
that's the
archive the
approach.
video.
but yeah,
you know.
it's been pretty windy and I haven't been able to get it.
That's all right. Well, I'm sure you'll get there.
Our goal was to get that puppy up and start utilizing it.
Yeah, that's great.
We already purchased it. We didn't put any money in this year for it because
Okay.
it's already here. A lot of the contractual stuff you'll see. Dog park, 6 months of the old, 6 months with the new. Just FYI, the sod for that dog park that we replaced at 46 pallets was $21,000. So that price on sod installation, we'll be asking for 30 because we only did a large dog park, folks. I have a feeling we'll have to start on the small one as well.
Yeah.
But
It looks good though.
it
And the
does
sod
look
looks good.
The numbers for the aeration electric, the aeration R&D they look very, very low to me. I don't know how many we're planning on doing.
We don't have that many areas here.
Well, right now, we're not planning to expand. I thought we were, that's the
Well,
future.
what we did on the capital, once we get to it, I'll show you how many areas we were planning on adding.
Okay.
And that'll,
Those numbers just look low based on the historical.
and Mr. Tinkle's correct, we have nowhere near the aerators.
Okay.
I wish we did, but we don't. Like I said, contractual, dog park numbers, we kind of cut it back. Plant replacement, we cut back. Parks and Recs, maintenance of 25, basically it's kind of new. There's a lot of stuff we need to start taking care of in our Parks and Recs that we kind of haven't done. Tools, we had a $750 tool budget last year. We went through that so fast, it wasn't funny because Rick needed tools, drills and everything else. So we kind of put a $2,500 on there just for tools. The
That even
drill,
seems pretty low to me.
well, it is, but we didn't, I fear it was better than what we had last year. Let's see, swimming pool. Your pool, folks, we went up about 40,000 because a lot more filters are going to have to be bought with this pool because of the amount of how the condition it's in. And Rick can kind of explain that later when he gets up to speak about it, but the maintenance and repairs, all these prices are going to have to go up on basically like your maintenance, your pool filters. It's just pool chemicals. It is what it is. I mean, the pool's 30 years old almost.
Well, until we make a decision to refurbish it, we're going to have to, have to pay more to provide the maintenance. That just makes sense.
Page 4, special events. I think the only thing on here that we kind of got rid of the fishing in the movies, holiday lighting's 15 grand. We kind of went down on that. Sidewalk compliance is a 5 grand. That's for ADA. We kind of lucked out our sidewalks, the on ramps. If you're familiar with this concrete ramps that go onto the sidewalks, they're in compliant. R&M sidewalks, shocker, 500,000. The Stony Brook where we took those trees out, that section alone is $260,000 to redo that sidewalks. I have 3 other quotes for additional areas. Right now, we're over 350. And I still have areas that we need to do.
I mean, do you think 500 is going to cover all the sidewalk repairs we're going to have to do next year?
No. 500, and Chris can
Well,
contest.
what's the number we need to put in there then?
A real number?
Yeah.
Well, what he's doing is phasing it.
I'm phasing in over
No
3
way
to
in the
5
world
years.
we could-
And what we're trying to
choke a
do
horse
is
if
we
do
started,
together.
and we get the section from Stony Brook done, we'll have from 82 all the way to Hidden Lakes. Walden Lakes to Gateway Greens is going to be done in June. then we'll have a little piece between Walden and there. So my goal is to phase this.
Yeah,
Because
no,
where the
no, I
roundabout's
understand that.
coming-
I'm saying, but my point is we're gonna have to spot repair until we do the complete repair.
Or paint,
Correct.
or paint it red.
If I had to give a legitimate number, you're probably looking at 750,000.
Well, that's what I would put in there. And the reason is, when people keep asking us, why are we removing oak trees or whatever, it needs to be represented in our budget. So you're gonna have to make a decision whether you want us to remove an oak tree or spend $250,000 or $20,000 a pop for repair. I mean, that's what and I'm not trying to punish the residents. I just want them to be, I want to be transparent in cost benefit. If you choose,
Greg, they think there is an alternative, and that is just patch it. Just patch it. All you're doing, we did that over on West Links Drive, 6,600 feet. You will be chasing those routes for the rest of your life.
well, not only that,
doing that.
we
It doesn't
go
work.
down Gateway Boulevard and you can spot everywhere we have replaced. It looks terrible.
It's horrible.
It's completely,
I totally
it
agree
almost
with you.
disrupts the continuity or the beauty of the oak trees when you have all of these little patches of asphalt or
The
white
true
concrete.
number needs to be in the budget.
The other
I totally
issue
agree.
I put on here was maintenance and repairs. It's 250. I'll be honest with you, that's low too, because your valley gutter alone for that section from Gateway Greens to Hidden Links was $160,000. If you're not aware of, those valley gutters are foot deep of concrete.
If you go down right now, Walden, from Walden entrance to Gateway Greens entrance, that valley gutter is being destroyed.
I have a quote
It
for that.
is being destroyed.
I have a quote for that, was 158,000, but I did not have it
can't
in the
even
budget
believe
to
that
do it.
touch it.
I asked for 250. That's probably a low estimate.
We're gonna get hit by that with the county.
I mean, if you want me to raise it, you're probably looking more
I
like
think
5.
in these areas, I think you have to be, I know you're trying to be conservative, but I think you have to put in your real number. And then if we have to shave it, we shave it, and then we have justification.
What I don't want to do is end up having the county come back and tell us we got to fix it, and then we go rob Peter to pay Paul. So where are we going to rob it from? Something else that needed it. I agree with Doug. Put it in there right now.
Okay.
I did have two questions. One was the valley gutters, and then the Silver Lake sidewalk, the one from the entrance going to Hampton Park, is that on them or that's on us? Because there's like 3 areas, it's really bad, but it's concrete, so it's like a point.
Them or who?
Is it the Silver Lakes HOA or is it a
No,
Gateway?
if it's out here on Gateway Boulevard, it would be us, and it has
Everything
been
on Gateway
Is
identified.
that, is that included in here? Because I don't.
Yes.
It is?
The reason I say that is we physically went out and inspected all
Oh,
10
it
miles
is
of
all-
sidewalks.
okay.
They're identified by priority. I'm doing the worst to the first. I mean, unfortunately, with the oak trees on Gateway Boulevard, Mr. Continkle can test. I got on ramps on some of those over there. They're really bundled up.
Yeah,
And technically, by ADA standards, anything with a ½ inch or above should be replaced.
well, you have two here that you know what I'm talking about by you?
Yeah.
That it's,
It's
Yeah.
on the list.
I agree with Doug. Put the numbers in there as what we feel is the necessary funds to do it correctly. Because there's a whole lot of chopping to be done later. But at this point in time, we need to know what the numbers are factual. Last thing I want to do is to get down, have somebody put us in a corner to where we have to go and spend money and then we rob it from some other account, i.e. aerators or something else that's important.
Well, we say we don't have the budget, and then they're gonna say, well, you have to do it. Like,
Yes. Oh, they don't care.
no, so
They
we
don't
need to
care.
get ahead of it. Go ahead,
I
Tony.
guess it's going to be, these are valley gutters on Griffin and Gateway Boulevard.
Yes.
The valley gutters are being beat up. Is that from traffic?
Oh, they're, no.
No, your
Roots.
oak trees tear them up.
Okay. that's
They're
different.
lifted
Okay, now I
up like
understand.
crazy.
Ownership.
Roots.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah, we don't have it. We don't have a way to point a finger at somebody other than the guy in the mirror.
Or
It's
to-
ours.
Or to the Mr. Pope,
Yeah.
the alternative.
Okay.
On the capital planning, GIS mapping, should have said 25,000 on that. What we want to do is after talking to Mr. Geppert, our stormwater stuff is not GIS'd. We like to hire the company that Mr. Geppert uses at Pelican Reserve, and we figure 25 grand was a good starting number.
So that needs to be changed, right? From
Yeah,
5 to
5's a
25.
mistake, should
Yeah,
be
yeah.
25.
No, I'm with that all day.
That is
I
to
agree
get
with
them
that.
started on Basin 5 and work our way as we go. But it's a good number to get started because right now we have nothing.
I agree with that.
So there's a new ADA compliant website coming out. Staff training to stay compliance, like $8,000.
Hey, look, let me ask you just a quick question. So the 250,000 for the Gateway Commons master plan, that's 250,000 plus what's the additional impact fees that we have available? I'm just trying to figure out what first year budget might
You're
look
about
like.
250,000.
So we have
in
about
that impact
500,000
fee.
potentially in that
Here's-
Commons Park.
Where are you looking? where are you
Here's,
looking?
we haven't got there yet.
Yeah, capital.
Soccer park ballast boxes, if you're aware, we purchased 10 of them. We need 10 more, but then we got to hire Bentley to place them and hang them all. That's why it's 60,000.
If we do, following up on the soccer park or the Commons Park, if we would do, let's say, a phase one project that would be, let's say, 4 to 6, what do you call it? Pickleball courts, which you're looking at about $100,000 for 2. So we'd be looking at about 200 if you go 4, 250, 260,000 if you go 6. That's all in, fences, everything in. I thought that we had funds available.
Impact.
Yeah, impact.
Yeah, that's what I
funds.
was talking about. We have,
If this doesn't have to be, those facilities and amenities would not have to be in the budget. We could use those.
right,
fees.
that's what we have 250 in the capital budget. Plus, I just asked Chris, we have about another 250 available in impact fees, which is gives us about a $500,000 operating budget for the Commons Park for physical next year.
This is
Two-
probably a
that's
low
capital,
estimate.
And then another 250 of impact fees that's not stated in the
Okay,
budget.
that's what I was.
That's what you were.
This is,
Not one or the other.
Yeah.
this is a low estimate for like phase one. I mean, probably should be 500,000.
Well, it depends on what phase one is.
Correct. That's why I couldn't put a number without knowing what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But
So
you know, you got two things you got to do. You got roads that you got to put in and parking areas.
It's all,
I mean, no matter what you do,
infrastructure
you
is
got
the
that.
first,
You got that.
first phase.
And then the second thing is whatever the amenity is.
Correct.
Okay.
Pool furniture, if, all depends what we do. New pool or no pool, the pool furniture's way old and outdated and it's falling apart. I think we've kind of kicked that down the road as long as we can on the pool furniture, but if applied on enemies, we'd try of a new pool, then we get new furniture, then we wouldn't have to spend it. Irrigation zones, aerators.
Yeah, that's what.
Here's your kicker. We asked for 100,000 because you get new aeration on basically 47 ponds that we don't have aerators on. Currently, talked to Elle, we were going to start with like 116, 109, the flowway ponds and some other ponds that she's identified that really need aerators.
So we're saying this amount will cover 48, 40,
No,
48 new
over-
aerators?
Over that many years it will at 300,000. Your first year won't.
Oh, okay.
you-
First
we
year
made
is
it- We did a 2, 4, 5 year out at 300 total.
okay, I see. Yeah. So that'll get us a third of the way there.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
That's
It's low.
really low.
I thought we came
Really
up
low.
with a rule of thumb
Well,
based on somebody had done something that was 5,000 to 6,000 aeration cost per acre. 5 to 6 per acre, all in. So if we have pond 116, which is, oh, good Lord, that must be,
the way it was
20
expressed
acres.
in Pelican is that you get a turnover every 24 hours.
that's correct.
That's
the
number
design.
one. The second criteria, that the aeration diffusers be no greater than 100 feet apart.
Good. I agree
So
with
those were and that they run, it's designed to run 24/7, because we were led to believe that was a good thing from a longevity of the equipment. Otherwise, if you got them starting and stopping, your
It's
cost
better
was
for them
go
to just
through
let
the
them
roof.
run.
Just let them run. So, and that's what our permit criteria manual was. And I'm going to make the assumption that that's the way we're putting them in.
We were just a starting number on this.
And I would,
mean,
But my question is that if we got this number and we know it comes down to acreage, we can backtrack it into acreage, what it costs to do it so many dollars per acre. And let's say that number is correct, and it was 5,000. When you take 5,000 and divide it into 250, it goes pretty fast.
Pelican's
What-
over 700.
and then here's what we're gonna have to decide. Because we got to
Well,
accelerate this.
bathymetrics will tell you what you need
Yeah,
to
but
do.
my
and
point
we
is,
don't have that.
we're gonna have to determine, make some really tough decisions on the ponds. Is when we talk about the pond standard, what we're gonna adhere to, what we're gonna do, what we're not gonna do. And there's a couple different levers we could pull. One is gonna be whether we go all in on aerators. Do we feel like aerators, or is it littorals, or what is it that we're gonna get the most bang for our buck, or gonna get us to the finish line faster? Personally, I just, and I don't, you guys are, I mean, honestly, you three are more of an expert than I am, but I would almost feel like we would pull forward the 47 aerators into this next year's budget as opposed to trying to do it every 3 years. If we feel like the benefit of getting those aerators in those ponds would have greater benefit than us doing some of the other items.
You're getting a couple of things with the aeration. First of all, you're extending the life of the pond. But sooner or later, if you don't aerate, it'll die. There'll be so much sludge that you're gonna have to dredge the pond.
And you may have
And it
to
helps
do
with
it
the
anyway.
algae, helps
And
with
you
the
may have to
algae
do that
flow.
You may have to do it anyway.
Without aeration, it's gonna probably last 25 years, and I would suggest some of ours are getting close to that. With aeration, 45 to 55 years.
Well, and I'm almost talking about just what is the short-term impacts. You know,
Well,
like with aeration, I think, and you guys correct me wrong, doesn't it help, I mean, with the just overall flow, which
Well,
minimizes
that helps with the
algae,
water
which
quality
minimizes
and all
water
the other
quality?
stuff,
Yeah.
right? You don't have fish kills, you oxygenate.
What'd you
the water
base the
much.
47 on?
Isn't
How'd you
that about
calculate 47?
47 ponds, the ones we got left there, right, we were talking about?
Excuse me, I'm
He
sorry.
wanted to know how we based the 47 ponds up for aeration.
40, it's about what we
We
have.
thought that we should start with the trunk line
Well, it makes sense. Yeah.
ponds.
No, but the 47, the total number.
You got
That's just from-
47 ponds. There's a big difference because some of our ponds are half acre, some of our ponds are 20 some acres. What made up that? How did you use new aeration 47 and $300,000? That,
I think 47 is a typo.
okay, I was gonna say something was wrong there.
Yeah, I think 47 there is.
Because
a
Should be
I would
close to
love,
70 something.
I would love to see
Yeah.
from staff, what do we need in order to get to 100%, aeration as whatever we deem the standard?
Well, I think what you do is you take our series of 60, 70 ponds and you put them in a schedule of over maybe 5-year period of what is it going to cost to do this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Budget it in, use 5,000 an acre, 6,000, I don't know, whatever the number is. But come up with a phased approach.
That's exactly how Pelican did it.
But I would not do this on cash. I'd debt retire it. Go to SRF and get the money to do it.
Now, we have that document that you created that
Don't
has,
borrow cash.
all the ponds and the acreage of the pond, and if they have the aeration now, so at least. And then we can just see the ones we have and just do total, just so we can get the total, but I do believe that this is
Way
way
low.
too low. I don't think this is even half of what we really should be looking at.
That's correct. We weren't trying to do every pond
Yeah.
out there. We were
We
just
have that
trying to start with some
document, and I'm
select
sure-
trunk line ponds as a starting point, because those are our trunk line ponds. Everything from Gateway goes into those ponds before they head out the system.
Well, till you get the bathymetrics, you don't really know anything. You're
Exactly.
guessing.
That's the other half, that's the other part of that equation.
Because we may very well run into some bad stuff in those ponds that we have to dredge out of there and try to figure out
So if
what we
you
do
want
with it.
True number?
I want to, I want
Okay.
to true number. I want, in order for us to get to 100% completion,
Okay. well,
how many
many
aerators
years?
is that?
That's about
And then
20
what's
years.
that, what's that amount? And then we can,
They can rough that in.
and then we can figure out what the phase approach, because we're going to have to figure out, are we going to just equally, are we going to equally attack aeration, littorals, and whatever else we need to do? Or is there certain areas that we need to go more all in? And if it's aerators, and maybe it's just a complete project, that we include littoral, because littorals aeration, and it becomes a project. We do SRF funding, at 3 million to get us at 100% completion over X amount of time.
Well, your problem is that the advantage of the capital cost is we can debt finance it. We can't debt finance operation and maintenance costs. We eat it. And the large cost associated with the pond maintenance is O&M.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it. So a dollar
Because
is
even
a
if you're,
dollar.
if you're putting in, let's just say, if you're installing net new littorals, is that capital or is that maintenance?
I don't know. Don't know about littorals.
That's what I
I
would
know
like,
aeration.
that's what I'd like to know too.
I know aeration will be funded by SRF because we've asked them.
We wouldn't be installing any net new littorals anymore? Okay.
The adjustable weirs, that's a study that Tetra Tech did.
Yeah.
You're looking at 3 of them. I've heard rumors anywhere between 100,000, 200,000 a piece. So we put 500,000 as a general number. I mean, that'll have to be.
And we
true.
still feel like that's a viable solution, right? That's something that's a priority, is being able to adjust those weirs. I mean, it makes sense to me. I just want to make sure nothing's changed.
Only way we protect the downstream end of Pelican Reserve We have no other way to protect it.
Correct.
None.
Okay.
So that's just a number to
Well,
dredging.
you know, I'll just throw this out, but it was suggested by someone in Florida, water management, that we could put in some big pumps instead of just weird. But
Put
you
in
can't
what?
operate, you can't operate the
Pump it as
pumps
opposed to just
any differently than
shifting the
lowering the
lever?
weir.
I can see FPL sitting back and smiling all the way to the bank. I mean,
Well-
you're looking at a couple of 500,000 horsepower pumps.
Oh, we had some huge ones on,
Do
right?
these people know what it
Okay.
takes to pump
Okay.
water?
Sorry, bro.
The other one's dredging flowway 3. That's one has a sandbar over in Pelican Preserve. I mean, we're all aware of it. You're not holding the water volume.
I still disagree with that.
That's 1 year, right?
No, that's from flowway 3. It goes from the weir all the way into Gateway Greens.
To
The
me, that's
backside
not a
of it.
priority.
What, the dredging?
What, you're supporting the dredging?
No,
I said, to me, it's not a priority.
Oh, I feel the same way. We didn't think it was important enough for Lennar to pay for it. We should.
When you calculate the volume and what its impact is on going up or down, it's
Not a
that
good-
whole
it's not a good-
thousands of acres, it's minimal.
I agree
Well,
with you.
that's an area we should probably circle.
Yep.
Let's put that in the aerators.
Yes.
We could do that too. I'll circle
We
it
should,
and do
we
that.
should. yeah,
Well,
we-
but you just don't pull it yet.
That's fine. That's fine.
Bob's exactly right. If it was that important, we should have hung it on the developer.
That's pretty much for the budget.
Okay.
Next one's a service water. I got Bob Burleson for ATM. He's with Applied Technology Management. Bob was referred to us by Waldrop, basically to look at our pond standards because Lee County has some questions concerning our pond standards. Our standards are not adopted by Lee County, by the way.
You talking about the pond standards that we just,
Correct.
okay.
Lee County has not adopted those. And
They,
Why
wait,
would?
because it was never submitted to her. And
oh,
Lisa, actually, when we went to do a vegetation permit, she goes, Brian, this is going to get you in trouble. This is why we reached out to hire a professional to come in here and evaluate it to make sure we're not going to get in trouble.
Okay.
I'd like to introduce Bob and bring him up and he can explain to you in great detail what we have want to do.
and Bob, what I would like you to do is when you come up, please, if you're ready for him now, Brian?
Yes.
Yep. So Bob, come up. One of the things I would like for you to address early on is why would we bring in, someone to do this work when we have an established pond standard, when we had a pond standard group, we have staff, we have, so we have all these things internally. Why at this point would we spend money to go externally? And I think the problem that we have is I think we would all agree that we put a lot of rigor into the pond standards. We probably feel that in our eyes, they're adequate. They might all be optimal, but we could have, that would be a discussion. But the difficulty is we do not have the ability today to enforce and regulate this standard, primarily because I think it's a cost issue. I mean, would you guys agree that, what constraints do we have today in saying that we can follow our existing pond standard at 100%?
Well, as of right now, there's not a cost. I mean,
We don't know because we never found out.
yeah, as of right now.
We don't have any information with which to make that decision.
But what I'm saying is that's the issue, is we know that it's going to cost money for us to get to the standard that we have written on paper.
we-
No. Because as of right now, the contract that we have with Ecogenics, it is what's here. The removal part is what people are not understanding. Spraying, it's removal, and that's what it's under a contract. And it just needs to be enforced. It needs to be, hey, this is it, this is what's in the
So
contract.
other than
Done.
removal or spraying, you're saying we're 100% compliant with our
No,
policy?
we're not doing it.
It's a little more complicated. We have two issues. We have the first one of getting it removed to get it back to what the DO required. That's issue one. Then from there on, it's maintaining it in accordance with the DO. That first one will knock your socks off. We've already known that. We've been told that it's going to cost a lot of money to get these things into compliance if we do it all aboard. That's what we were hoping we would get when we did the standards. I think the standards are, if these standards come back and we bid them, and that cost knocks our socks off.
Well, but
I think we've got a real problem.
I think where the discussion is going to come in with all four of us, all five with Bill, is whether or not we have to remove littorals based on what's in the DO. Because we had that conversation with, I can't remember her name when she was here.
From the county?
from the county.
Don't pay attention to what she
Uh,
says.
But that was part of the conversation is, is there a range? Is there a max? Is there a set number? And I think that's where there's going to be debatable thing. But I just wanted you to understand kind of where we're at, because I think people in the audience and those, our residents need to understand why should we spend money to bring someone in from the outside to tell us what we think we might already know, or to answer questions that we may not. All right, and then I'm sure we'll jump in at some point.
Okay, understood.
Great,
Again,
thank
my name's Bob Burleson. I'm with Applied Technology Management. And we were asked to come in by Brian Public Works to take a look at the standards that you have. Basically, not necessarily discarding those standards, but looking at kind of fresh eyes, looking in the context of all the development orders, the state permits, research on your surface water management system, and looking at other systems that have been done and what they are doing that might be beneficial to Gateway. So again, the idea is just to provide some fresh eyes to look at that.
So you would look at all of our DOs.
Yeah.
And give us your interpretation of what those DOs state and what our maintenance plan and policy should be for maintaining those.
Yeah.
At an optimal, we look at water quality, infrastructure, and probably aesthetics. Aesthetics being the last. We want to make sure that the lake bank infrastructure is intact, that it doesn't have erosion, that their water quality is good, and that would entail littorals and everything else. But I think I look at those things: infrastructure, water quality, and aesthetics.
Yeah, right. Because while your surface water system is an amenity to the community, its primary function is, as you said, it's flood control, it's water quality treatment, but then it also provides an amenity. So a lot of what I will be doing is, again, looking at the permits, looking at the development orders, and looking at other water quality issues that are around, because, I will tell you, we have, our firm has done a lot of work for Lee County in helping them try to meet their obligations under the Waxahachie total maximum daily load and the basin management action plan that they are under the gun to do as part of their stormwater permit, their federal MPDES.
But you realize we're not impacted by MDL.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I realize that.
And our other issues that we've got so many lakes with different DOs, some are silent, and then we're trying to create a policy and a standard that will adhere, or at least, be able to govern all of these different ponds with different standards.
This is something, since 1986, and development.
And I'm more interested in where the DO calls out littorals at a percentage, and it may not state that is the percentage, or not to exceed, or whatever. Some of that I'm not clear on, and we all have different opinions on it. But when the DO is silent, that's where we also need guidance on. What do you do when the DO is silent? And we have a policy and a standard.
Right. And a lot of times the way that language is written in the DO, when it says 25%, is it talking about 25% surface area of the pond? Is it talking about 25% of the shoreline? It may not say, but
and if it doesn't say not to exceed, or minimum, maximum, or if it just doesn't say anything,
so
how do you interpret that?
It may not provide any clear guidance on that. What I can tell you is, based on the performance on these systems and some research that has been done, is that typically they recommend some littorals in 20 to 30% of the pond area, shallow areas, because, for a lot of the things that you've already mentioned, it does provide enhancement of water quality. It provides oxygen to the system. You've been talking a lot about aerators and littorals. One of the things that they can do is they can add oxygen back into the system, because it's important that the ponds stay aerated, that they have oxygen in order for them to do their proper treatment function, to avoid fish kills and things like that during these, this is a bad time of year when the weather is really hot and so on. So they help with those things too. And in addition to that, just the shoreline stabilization. Brian took me around to a few of the ponds. I didn't look at them in a lot of detail, but just kind of scanned. But a big thing that they do is provide shoreline stabilization where they are there. So again, those are things I'm going to try to look at it, and I'm going to try to come up, is it going to be a one size fits all? That's going to be tough to do, because like you said, there is a wide variety of requirements in your DOs.
Well, and even added complication, we've spent millions of dollars on lake bank restoration. Right. So you've got an existing pond that has no restoration. you've got a pond that we've spent millions of dollars on that has been restored. How do you ensure that everything that we've invested in that pond stays true versus another pond that maybe we'll do it at some point in the future, whatever, how, that adds complication to it. So we've got different cost investments in these different ponds, in addition to their DOs and all the other things.
Here's what bothers me on all this, is that, and it's no offense, because I was on that side of the fence. We're paying them $7,500 to get educated as to what our requirements are, to give us their opinion on the pros and cons of the plan that we've got. I am assuming that the committee, because we did it the time before, we looked at the development orders and we followed the development orders when we put together the pond standards. What I'd like to figure out as a way, and I know this is difficult in your position, is how can I have you? I'd much rather have you look at our pond standards right off the bat and look at those versus ones you may have had experience with in other communities, but not spending all that time and effort reading the pond standards, because that's the cost here. We're paying them to get educated. We're paying them to get educated as to what we've got. We already know what we got, and we wrote what we believe, we rewrote the standards in accordance with that. So I'd much rather have them, to the extent they need to, is look at have the pond standards available, but I'd like to have you guys right off the bat, take the pond standards and start reading them and critiquing them right off the bat.
Well, in a perfect world, we would have had this in conjunction with the ponds committee.
Well, I'm of the opinion is what I'm saying is I believe the ponds committee did a lot of the stuff that he's proposing. And I think that's what Jim and Justin were arguing about. We're beating a dead horse. We've already done that. What I'd like to do is have his expertise looking from the perspective of he's seen things in multiple other places that we haven't been. Not to take away from the committee, because the committee did a hell of a job. I thought it was very good. I'd much rather have him come in and direct his immediate attention to the standards and verify that, hey, guys, you really missed something here. From that perspective.
So we're not asking him to create new standards. We want him to look at ours, validate them.
I definitely, if he comes back and says they are that bad, that they need to be redone, we got a problem.
Yeah, well,
we got a problem.
And that's the way I was interpreting this.
Someplace we goofed up, and I don't think we goofed up.
That's how I was interpreting this.
I think what we're needing is
validating our existing
standards.
standard. Yeah. Is that the way you interpret it?
Well, that really is it. It's to provide, again, it's a fresh set of eyes, and it's not necessarily to come in and throw everything out, but there are going to be possibly some recommendations I might have that you might want to include that might help you with the O&M, help them with the implementation of that too.
I'd rather do this in two phases. I'd much rather, and I've been on your side before. I know what you're doing. I'd rather have you come in, look at it, and I'd pay you for it, pay you dearly for it, to look at our standard. Then come back to us and say, hey, I've looked at your standard and I need to do this, which would generate the need to spend more money.
And I'll take it one step further. I think I would like for you to coordinate with staff and then also coordinate with that pond standard committee. Because I think they've got some historical knowledge of the due diligence they've done already, which might help you, answer some questions, but also in the spirit of transparency, they put in a lot of work.
Because
don't you agree that?
I got two.
Well, because we don't have
a
a man-hour breakdown of how you arrived at all your costs. Everything's lump sum in this proposal. I don't know what level, and I know $7,500, what that's worth today in engineering dollars. How are you expecting us to provide you with lock, stock, and barrel, all the DOs and everything? Or have you got going to, because heaven help you go in Lee County unless you've worked here before. Going to South Florida Water Management District, we've been working on this for 10 years. Getting this stuff. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. We don't want to pay you for chasing this stuff.
Let him give us the answer before we give us our answer, because maybe we'll work out something really good right now. Is this price, the $7,500, is you doing all that work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
I wonder what the price would be if we just give you a CD with all that work in one little file.
We did it all.
You don't tell them that yet.
Well, the number I'm thinking of only has a 0 in it. In other words, we've done all this.
I know.
L's got the development orders on every one of these single ponds. So
And-
you don't need to go chase this stuff.
I wasn't going to chase it. The whole idea was, oh goodness, dropped my papers, but the whole idea was she's got a wealth of information. She knows where it is, and I would be relying on her to provide that. No, I understand exactly what it would be to go to the county.
So
get the
your
DOs.
7,500 is to read it then.
I'm reading. I'm going to start with your standards document, and then, I'll go from there. But no, this isn't for me to go and to acquire all these things.
Okay, I'd much rather than I'd go back, I'd say I'm now more convinced than ever. I'd much rather have you take, I think you've got a great idea. Meet with the committee, meet with staff, and we give him a copy of the report, give you a copy of the report. And then with
Are
that.
you talking about the
Yes,
standards document?
Yes, sir. And then you come back after you've looked at that, and we'll pay you to do that on an hourly basis or whatever. Then you come back and then justify to us what we need to do to move this thing along. If you come back and say this thing, it was written by amateurs and we need to do this, and this, they'll have to explain that to us. If you just need to tweak it to make it better, then I can explain that to our residents and I don't have any problem with that. But just to take and go back and repeat what is, in my opinion, has already been done. Our staff and our committees met together, they went over the development order, and I don't think, unless you pull the wool over our eyes, you didn't change any development or do anything contrary to any development orders. I think they did a very good job with it.
Bob's got a question, and then I think Bobby does too.
Yeah, I just have 2 comments. First of all, I'm real supportive of the idea, Bob, because what I think you're going to bring to the table, and we've said it in a number of ways, but we're looking for the engineering expertise and your historical expertise in doing this. The second thing is I was led to believe by Brian that this does not include any of the 58 ponds in Pelican. And I don't know if that's been explained to you. And I don't know if that cuts down the workload and not that Pelican couldn't use it, but we've already done it.
Well, my understanding is you've already got.
Yeah, we have.
Already got.
And I didn't want
This
to
isn't
waste.
Pelican.
Well, I know, but I hate to keep cutting them out of the herd, but I don't want to spend money there because I don't think it's.
Right.
gonna-
Well,
Okay.
you don't need to. You've done it the right way. And then Flavia, you had one thing, and then we can.
You're gonna kill me on this one. So when you made a statement that we're gonna bring all the ponds into the development order.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay,
I said,
say it again.
I said that our standard is written around the development order. Our standards are written around the development order. So if we go out and we put in a bid or we set up a set of specifications to do the work, what we're doing is we're implementing the development order. And that consists of 2 components as far as I can understand from an engineering perspective. One, to get the pond into compliance with the order to begin with, and then ongoing maintenance to keep it that way. That's what I understood we're doing. If we're doing something different, then I was deceived.
And I think that's probably an area that we would need for you to weigh in the future.
Yeah,
Is, do you maintain to the DO, or is there a standard that will allow, certain extensions of growth in littorals, and what is the standard? So I think that we could debate that for a while. Because what I would like for us to do, if we have specific items that we feel we're having difficulty addressing, implementing, or adhering to, whatever, let's make sure that we trickle that through to Brian so he can project. And I think I would have it might be a good opportunity for you to meet with the ponds committee and then let them give you their point of view on, because they're bought in on the standard because they helped design it. Where do they feel there are issues with adhering to that standard today? And then you can have that same conversation with staff, and hopefully there will be overlap in those concerns. And what is our inability for us to be confident that we don't have to hire someone, or that we can't maintain and regulate and adhere to a policy that we have approved. So any additional questions? So we're really running behind.
No, other than the fact that I'd like to see him take task 1 and cut it down and reduce it to just basically incorporate in phase one, looking at our current standards. Then after he has done that, come back and make a position as to what we need to do next. It may, based upon your expertise, come back and say, guys, I don't think you went far enough, or you needed to consider this or that, whatever it is.
So I guess the question is, if with task one, your document review, there's limited administrative work that you have, that you put in that, because that information will be readily available
It's
to you. So
already
we're just making sure
it's
there's not
already been
additional cost
compiled, yes, sir.
incurred that was not assumed that would, that's, I just want to be clear that, so we don't have to, are we augmenting it to Ed's recommendation? If it's your assumption that this information, that document review, that information would be given to you, and there's minimal administrative effort on your end, it doesn't impact the cost.
That's
Doug,
correct.
That's right.
I was just, I just think at this point, I honestly feel that some of us, if he comes and tell us what we want to hear, for some of us will agree. And I don't want us to say, if he comes and tell us that this is perfect, I don't want to hear he doesn't know what he's talking about. So I really believe that he should do this work alone, and he should have no input from the committee whatsoever. This is the input from the committee, because I don't want the committee to influence him on any way, shape, or form. I think this should come from him. This is the input. He has the information and documents that's going to come from
So
Al.
you're just going to give him the report.
Give him
and
the
let him
report,
draw his own conclusions.
let his own conclusion, and let him come with us.
I'm fine with that. The reason I wanted
And then there will never be a question from the board, from the residents, from anybody that how was this done? It's from you, comes from you, and it's fresh eyes, like you said. You're gonna be looking at the whole thing, and if you have questions, you can go with staff.
Well,
The one thing about that, though, is we do that is I can see maybe the committee, but then that brings up the question, is there going to be any interaction with staff? Is that
Then you
introduces a whole
should have
different deal?
none.
You should have none.
Then should have none.
Well, then we're
only-
also contradicting ourselves, saying that
Because
we got all this knowledge, we have all this work that's already been done that should help him get to the finish line faster. Now we're saying we take all that back.
Well, my point is that we had a plan, and the plan was to implement it. The reason we didn't implement it is because staff didn't think we should. They refused to do it. We don't need to do that. Don't shake your head, you did it. I know you did. You didn't put in the plans and specifications, the requirements that are in the pond standards. And we got a bid that didn't include what we needed to do. That's where we went awry. So I just assume he can have the discussions with the staff as far as getting the documents that he's going to need to read. But as far as getting the input or being tainted by what their position is, or tainted by what the committee's position is, let him formulate his own conclusions.
Well, Doug, in the document, there's no interaction with staff that he needs it.
Okay,
on the
so
superintendent.
here's what I would, then let me just make a modification then.
Right.
So you'll get information needed, documentation from staff. You will conduct your independent review, and then I would say prior to a formal presentation, that you have the opportunity to present to staff, present to the committees, just for their input before we bring it here. Because what I don't want it to do is, I don't want you to present to us and it hasn't been reviewed by staff, it hasn't been reviewed by the committee for their input. It'll have more validation if his findings is reviewed with the different entities prior to formally presenting it to the board.
You want to avoid that?
I want to avoid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your timeline? Because you have in here to do the task one is 3 weeks, but you don't have what it takes to do the task two. Is that another 1 week?
No, sir, that was, and let me give you some idea, because you were asking about the rates, and that lump sum amount is covering about 100 hours worth of work. So it's going to be about a week looking through the documents. If I get through them less, that'll give me a little more time.
100 hours for
the whole
completion?
For the whole proposal, yes, sir. So it's about 40 hours for task one, and I don't remember the exact numbers, and about 20 hours to do the field reconnaissance. And there would be some interaction, because I would be coming down, and there may have to be some the staff may have to take me around and get me into some places, but the idea was if they could give me codes and I can get into places, I could do that as independently as I could.
Here's where I'm at right now on this. The 17,500, I don't have a problem with, for what I'm understanding, because I've checked you guys out. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem is how we're arriving at that. I have no problem with you coming out, and if you come back and do what I'm hoping you will do, is give us your honest opinion of what needs to be done based upon a review of the development orders and our standards, then we take it to the ultimate completion, which is your phase 3. So I would like to do it in 2 phases. Come back to us in what, 30 days, 45 days?
Well, I guess I could do that, but the thing about the ultimate conclusion of this is basically it's going to be a memo report, basically with what I've seen and any recommendations I have, what stays the same, what may change in the document, things to be implemented.
So you're saying that task 3 is in essence your delivery document, your delivery.
Basically, okay, after reviewing the documents and going around and looking at your system, this is what I saw. This is where I think you need to go.
Is there, in your vision, a way that we can have a interim check that we know where you're going, where you're headed with this?
But what would be the value?
Spend $17,000. Right now is what I'm trying to get to is after he reviews the manual, reviews our standard, are you in a position to say that there are things that we need to do that in essence fulfills your task 3? In other words, you'd be justifying your task 3.
I don't know that I can completely do that without looking at your system as is, because as you all know, nature is not linear.
So I understand that. I understand that.
There are
I'm
some
asking you
distances, so I'm trying to look at everything holistically so I can give you an informed opinion on that. And I don't know, that task 3 is going to be more of a summary of what I found, but it sounds like, if I'm understanding, I do task 1 and task 2, and then you'd kind of like to know what I've seen, and that's really what task 3 is.
I don't know. I'm thinking what task 3 is if he's having to rewrite our fund standards. That's what I'm looking at.
That's the beauty of the beast. That's if it's not good, and that's what I'm afraid of it. I'm afraid that if this is going to go one way or another, either it's going to be small changes, or it's going to be all the way around, and it's going to be to you, Ed. Either you're going to like it or you're not going to like it. And I'm afraid that it's going to be very small changes and you're not going to like it. And you're going to say, he doesn't know.
Ed already said he agrees with the existing pond standard.
Until I bring this up to him, because this says at a minimum, it should be brought up to the DO at a minimum. And
I don't know what you're talking about.
right here. And I think if we didn't put this, I mean, that's what I'm afraid that I don't know how you missed that one. So at a minimum. So if there's a need, if that particular pond has a need, either to have a slope that needs to be stabilized, we're not going to remove the authority. If there's a need to keep something there, it's going to stay there.
Okay, I could go halfway then, because I see where you're coming then. Is you do phase 1, phase 2, report to us before you proceed with phase 3, so that we know where we're going. I want to know, because this ain't rocket science. You can look at that report, and if you've got the background, which I believe you have, you'll be able to say, hey, this thing's on pretty firm ground, or these people wrote this are out of left field. You should be able to say that pretty quickly.
But isn't that what he was going to deliver in task 3? That's the findings of the recommendation. He might say, I agree with the pond standards at this.
No, if he's in task 3 and he's saying that it is all wet, he's going to give us a new standard.
Well, no, sir, that's not, the scope is not rewriting your standard. I will make some recommendations if I see some deficiencies, but I will not be rewriting it.
Okay, then for $17,000, then we may still be spending more money to get a final pond standard. Is that what you're saying?
Well, maybe. That's true.
That's what's got me bugged.
It's not the rewrite.
It doesn't appear to be a touchy-feely that you've got something, a deliverable when we come back. We might have recommendations to go to the next step. To spend
what I would say is, at the completion of the consultant's work, we have an agreeable or finalized pond standard. Whether it's validated what we have or modified or completely recreated. Well, you know, but that's the thing. I mean, like, if you're going to hire a consultant, the consultant, in my opinion, you have people that get you halfway. Some people get you to the finish line. Because we've had so many issues with this, I want a consultant that's going to get us to the finish line. So at the end of our engagement, we will have a ratified pond standard with an implementation or execution or whatever we're going to do from that point on. If we're not there, then there's no point for us to enter into an engagement if there's still going to be something left at the end of task 3. But that's the 100 hours.
If you just say and add a comma to the end of that for the 17.5.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if we say, and this is where you may have to, I'm hoping there's some opportunity saves because we're giving you a completed document that we think is pretty good. We want you to poke holes in it. Only in the event that you do your analysis and you come back and say, and you should know this pretty early on, whether our standard is off base, because you're going to read it first, and then you're going to walk it back. You're going to validate it as you go forward. I would say with 100 hours, not to exceed, that at the end of our engagement, that we have a document that we can ratify, that we can enforce and regulate, and we're done with it. Now there might be additional costs that we have to budget in order to get there, but we're going to say, this is our document, and as of whatever date, we're going to adhere to this, and here's our plan to get us at 100% compliant with our policy. Anything other than that, I can't support.
Okay, and I agree to that. You said something earlier, or maybe one of our staff said something, and I want to make sure, because I've not heard this. Who said that we had to have county ratification of our pond standard?
That's what Brian said that.
Never heard that before. Where'd that come from?
Or maybe I don't know if he said they have to, but I thought he said they had not approved it because they have not seen it. I don't remember hearing that.
I think that they were talking about the removal, like not the spraying and cutting, like literally hand removing that type of removal. I think that's what they're talking about.
Well, my thing is the standard is the standard. And the county, first of all, I don't see anything that I can read that even says the county has to approve it.
Yeah.
The only thing the county's got is they've got a series of standards that we have to comply with.
Well, ask Elle, does the county have to approve our standard?
My opinion is no, if our standard is not in derogation or development. If we're doing anything in addition to what's in the development order, which in addition to the LDC, the counties
or contrary to county.
So let's wrap this up because we're all about. So here's what I would do. I consult in my day-to-day. If I was you, I would probably say, based on what we have, I would probably shift some of the scope to allow myself 25 hours of additional work at the end in the event that there's some additional modifications. So, and I know you've probably gone through and that may not add up to what you've done before, but I'm hoping there's going to be some time saves based in what we're giving you. So if you feel confident that within 100 hours, however you allocate it, if you want to condense this to 75 and then allow yourself 25 hour overage for maybe heavier lifting, if you go down that path, if you're comfortable with your cost and our expectation that at the end of our engagement, we have a standard that we can ratify, let's just call that, we ratify it. If you're comfortable with that, then I believe we can move forward. If you need to take this back and modify your proposal, then we can push this to the next board meeting. It's really up to you.
I'm not sure exactly what the timetable Brian had. I will be perfectly honest with you. Am I comfortable that you will have a ratified document at the end? I don't know what I'm looking at yet. That is going to be part of what I am doing. So I am reticent to commit to that. The other thing about that is if we do get into a situation where it may require a significant rewrite in a certain section or something like that. That's got to be reviewed. There's a lot of people who are interested in this. And so there's going to be a lot of interaction, probably some rewrites and things like that. And so
I'd much rather have him indicate to us that you're going to present us a document that complies with the development orders, period. In other words,
So
you-
it-
you- in
to
other
cover
words,
his
your
risk, is
document-
this more time and materials than, how,
No, I think
is
he's
this
good.
not-
I don't have any problem with the total, what he's trying to do. I was just trying to phase
well,
it
no,
out.
what he's saying is there's a buffer in there that he hasn't accounted for. And that is additional hours outside. If he gets to task 3 and there is significant modifications and we need to have roundtable. I mean, you've been here long enough, like, it won't take us 10 minutes for you to bring up an item and for us to resolve it, right? I mean,
And that's the thing. That's why,
you know,
it's task 3. It's kind of a defined number because I don't know what I'm going to find. That's why the thing I was comfortable doing was saying, I will know what I've seen and I can give you recommendations on that. But to write a standards document that has to pass the muster of all the parties.
No, I don't think I would ask you to do that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it myself. Alls I can ask you to do is you come back with a document that does the one thing that we've all been talking about. Does it comply with the development orders?
I can't.
That's the issue.
And that's part of what I'm doing. Does it comply with the minimum
Well,
of
here's what I
that?
would say.
And if not, these are some things that you need to add. But as far as rewriting the document.
well, you wouldn't be responsible for necessarily rewriting it. You would have your recommendations.
But that's how when you said.
But I want to be very clear here because I don't want to get to the end of this and we not be in lock and step with what you're delivering on. So, Tony, maybe you can help me with the language here on.
You make the motion.
What's the board looking for as far as the product from ATM
The product that I'm looking forward,
or the board?
the easy way to put it is that he comes back with recommendations for changes, if necessary, to the current pond standards, not a rewrite unless he can document that it was just a mistake and it was done wrong.
So how
And I don't
how can
believe
we-
that
we
is
need
the
to
case.
We need to simplify that.
But the problem is that he's over a barrel. He doesn't know what we're asking him to commit to something that he hasn't done the research
At some
yet.
point.
That's why I wanted 2 phases.
Well, I know, and that's part of some of the risk that, that he has to assume. If he's looking for a lump sum, then we need him to take us to the finish line. If if we want to break that up, or if we want to go on an hourly rate, and then, that's a little different. Then we got to monitor stuff. It's much more complicated.
Yeah.
So let me kick it back to you. How would you, if you were rewriting this in a one sentence, what are you comfortable with based on what you've heard from us, that we want to have at the end of this, we want to have a document that we can ratify. And implement. Now, and that could simply just be based on your recommendations that we should consider for modification, which will still get us to the end result. I'm not asking you to physically rewrite our document. So how would you phrase that in some form of statement of work?
Go back and see what I wrote.
Okay, let me help you. So I'll make a motion that we approve ATM proposal for Gateway Service Water Management System of 17,500.
Based upon the submittal April 20th, not the one done in our report.
With the date of April 20th, with the delivery of a recommendation for ratifying our existing pond standard.
That was the abbreviated version of the motion.
Yeah, because I kind of lost my train of thought about halfway through. But that's the whole.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Yeah. May I ask a question? You mentioned April 20th and the date on my proposal.
Our board book had a April 14th deal. Here's the April 20th one.
Okay.
And I'm assuming, I haven't had a chance to, because I just got it. I haven't a chance, but I know the one that was in our board book had no fees, no nothing. So I'm assuming that the only thing that was done, it was omitted and that the verbiage is the same in both documents.
Well, yeah, it is. It should be, but to be honest with you.
I don't know why we have one that says April 14th and one that says April 20th.
Yeah, that I don't know either.
And while gentlemen's looking at that, there's the important notice at the bottom will be deleted. It's not proprietary. We're a public body. I know that's.
So I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
And I don't know where
I knew that dog
And
wasn't
there
gonna
are
hunt.
standard terms and conditions like E-Verify.
I'm even fine with just going
I
to
provided
first.
Brian, he'll give you
Yeah, could I look at the April 20th one? And I'm sorry, I am drawing a blank, but because what I have, my copy is April 14th. And
Do you have a April 20? He wants a copy.
yeah, if I could just
look over it? Yeah.
just to make sure.
Yeah, I don't have a.
I want to make sure what I'm agreeing to.
Well, I couldn't figure out
we'll
how
tell
we
you.
had it. I couldn't figure out how we had a document that didn't have the same date
Okay.
as the other one.
Well, that one was, okay. And this one has an agenda thing. This is the one that I wrote with the numbers in it. So yes.
So the April 20th is the most accurate.
The April 20th is the most accurate.
And then the other one that you'd have to consent to the elimination of that important notice at the bottom, because I was sure that Tony would catch that.
And the addition of the normal typical.
Yeah, because
And to
everything
be
we
quite
got
honest,
is
if that date goes, a week or two, that's not the stickler. The stickler is the deliverable, which is for you to help us get to a ratified document at the end of our engagement.
Yeah, and that's what the goal would be,
Okay.
was whatever recommendations I might have, I would spell those out for you. Someone else would need to take the document and incorporate that if everyone agrees, but
So you're comfortable with how we've defined the expectation, which is pretty much in line with what your
yeah.
expectation is.
Yeah,
We just want to make sure
technical
that
memorandum
it's
to
clear that
provide
you're going to help us get to the
what I
finish line.
found and recommendations for any changes I might.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a
I have a
first
motion.
motion, a second by Bob. Bob,
Yes.
any comment? You're so quiet.
Nope.
Okay. So we have a motion, a second. I'll call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Is Bill
Motion.
online still?
No. Okay.
Sorry.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
I mean,
you.
It's a lot to throw at you, but it's an area that we need to address and we need.
Well, and clearly it's an area that evokes a lot of passion too, because
You think?
Have you done, this is the one thing I wasn't able to check on your website or check it around. Where have you done this type of a review of another similar CDD pond standards?
I did some work back for Lehigh Acres way back in the day.
Okay.
So ATM was district engineer for them at one time.
Okay. So you've seen this stuff.
I've done that, and I've also
Yeah.
have done designs and gotten permits and have had to help put forward what the O&M requirements are too.
And then the last question, have you dealt with Lee County on these related issues?
Not specifically on those related issues.
What color's your hair right now?
Well,
These probably would have been
no,
great questions to ask 3 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Like I said, we have done quite a bit of work with
Let's
the
make us
county and
look
trying
good.
to help them with their water quality.
you can't
Yeah, okay. All right, so thank you. We appreciate your
Thank
time.
you. Thank
Just as a reminder, we're an hour behind. So moving on to 4B, Amendment 1 to SRF loan agreement.
I'm going to, L. Harris, Natural Resources, Gateway Services. I'm going to stand in for Brian at this
Okay.
time. This agenda item is looking for a 5% contingency on our SRF loans to the pond restoration projects. The reason that we are asking for this is just like the Pond 59 in Stony Brook, that pipe was buried years ago and was not on any of the plans at all. We couldn't find it. It just did not exist anywhere on any of the plans. Even the record drawings did not illustrate that pipe being in the ground.
Motion to approve Amendment 1 to the SRF loan agreement.
I second that.
Motion is second.
Thank you so
Any
much.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
If I may make a brief comment, just a clarification, that 5% contingencies for the last 3 lakes, so there would be a contingency. If you look at that price for Lake 83, the original contract price was $495,000. The final cost with change orders was $656,000. If you see those additional quantities like 91, that's $38,000 higher. $30,000 higher for 101. That's because those areas shown on the plans that said by others, where they were looking at littorals, they installed rock. So what that change order ate up the 10% contingency for the $1.874 million contract. So what this is doing is that was covered by that contingency. It's adding an additional 5% for those 3 lakes that are under construction right now. So.
Okay, thank Okay, item 4C, Gateway Commons Park, conceptual master plan, Almonte.
Again, I apologize.
Providers don't support the new law. They say it wasn't necessary, though some say the most harmful restrictions about drop boxes, mail-in balloting got pulled out.
Somebody's listening to CNN.
Okay.
Mr. Rick Rylinski from Home Montez will be here to present this agenda item.
So Chris, how can we drive this presentation that I've got on this one?
Well, that could be by a thumb drive. We could put it in, or let me see if it's on here already. I have your scope of work.
Well, it's up to you. I had submitted some information about our firm and some project samples and whatnot. Or I could just go straight to the proposal. I'm respectful of your time. So you tell me if you want me to go
If you'll
and
just
sell you on our
distribute-
company first, or
If you'll just distribute whatever has been
Sure.
to the board as a follow. You have a thumb drive? Just
Yeah.
throw in the thumb drive and I'd like to look at some samples. I think
Sure.
your company background, we can read through that.
it's, you'll be able to recognize it. It's in a folder called Gateway Commons Presentation. And there should be a PowerPoint file in there. Appreciate it. Oh, no.
Oh, come back. I'm on this is the world. We've been sitting here long.
Master plan. Presentation.
Yes. I've known Tony for a long time.
Down to the Bonita Springs, Spring Loose, or right to the Gateway Community Park?
Right to the gateway. Thank you.
Is it gonna, okay, it's gonna show up on our screen.
And then just let me know if you want to drive that thing or if you, does this
Sure.
operate the slides?
May, if you want, you can tell me and I'll just move right ahead.
So if you go to view and then hits slideshow, I think it starts.
You can just hit slideshow. Now go to slideshow. No, up in your top menu.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
To the left. Right. Thank you. Awesome. All right, so you can go to the next slide, or does this operate? Chris,
You can
know?
try
Give
it.
give it a click. Nope, no, there.
Did you do that? Okay, let me try it. It does work.
Okay.
Okay. So that's our firm, Home Montez. We have two offices, one in Naples, one in Fort Myers. I'm out of the Fort Myers. My name is Rick Bralansky. I'm a professional engineer. And then also on our staff is Bill Prizey. I saved him from coming to this. He was actually busy on some other things. He's our landscape architect, and he's more of the creative side of this project. A little firm overview, Stanley and Sergio, they were our founders since 1966. And we have civil engineering, landscape architecture. We do 3D graphics and digital design, planning and surveying. And we serve both public and private sectors. And, you know, we've got a strong reputation, been here a long time, and actually have a lot of history here with Gateway community. That's some of the team. Bill Prizey is in the center. Tyler, he's an engineer on our staff as well. And then John, he's the graphics designer, and he does a lot of the pretty pictures along with Bill's design. We also provided the resumes for everybody. I won't go through that, but it's available. So just some representative projects, and all these projects that I'm showing right now are actually in the ground. So you're going to see the renderings that Bill did on these, Bill and John, and then know that they are actually constructed projects that look similar. So one is the Paul Sanborn Park, and that's in Cape Coral, close to the North Fort Myers border. So if you ever have a chance, you can see what that looks like. But that's some of the illustrations that Bill did for the project, some renderings over there in the lower left, and then actually the project as well, the interior promenade. So those are all graphics, except for the top left, which is actually a photo. These are some other illustrations, kayak launch, bell tower, pool, amenity area. And then we have the bocce ball courts and pickleball courts also
Pickleball.
with the Belterra. Yep, got it, Ed. Some passive recreations, Fiddler Marsh, we did the gazebo, Lakeside Pavilion. A lot of these elements I'll go through later, but are probably quite interesting for the Gateway as far as the master planning. So Pullman Waterfront Promenade, some hardscape, and then the City Park Promenade at Lions Park as well in Fort Myers. Just some more renderings, FGCU North Village, we did Lakeside Pavilion, or he did, River Road Community Park, Trail Spot, another passive recreation use. Sienna Vista Regional Park, I'm not that familiar with that project, so I can't really say exactly what he did. That's a Naples project. I try not to cross the border too much. Versailles, that's in Wellington, Heritage Bay, Clubhouse. Again, illustrations of some pool projects that really came out strikingly nice. Heritage Bay and the Prima Luce, which that never got constructed, but that was a 3D rendering we did just to show the illustration graphics that can be accomplished. And actually have in there, I have a video, we do a drone video. We did it for the Bonita Spriggs baseball park, Little League Park, which is really nice. It's about 4 minutes long. I could show you that as well. And then just some more renderings. Again, most of these are pool features, Bell Tower Park in the low right-hand corner. That really turned out nice. Kind of a little bit larger pool than probably this project, but it's a very nice type of sample. Palma del Sol, and then even Gulf Coast Hospital, we do some nice waterfront, waterfall type artwork and hardscape, replicated beach area, Mediterra. And I'm sorry I'm going through these. I'm just
No, that's
trying to
fine.
be
It's the
respectful.
speed is actually good. I mean, if it's not park,
Yeah, I
you
gotcha.
can just kind of breeze through it.
Yeah, so these are, well, they're related to the pool though. So I can't, that's why we tried to do is we tried to show you a little bit of
Yeah.
everything that could be related to this project. And this is more clubhouse pool projects that we've done. Community park elements, Belterra, Community Park, Boca Bay, North Fort Myers Community Park, master plan for their ballparks there. And then other prominent.
What's the acreage on that? Do you know the Belterra
They
Community
have
Park?
1,900 dogs.
No, I mean the acreage of just that park area.
No, I'm afraid I don't.
Okay, that's fine. Because it looks about
But if I had to
close to
guess,
our size.
if I had to guess, I'd say you're probably in the 10-acre plus range. Just judging
What's
from the
our
elements.
park, Chris?
20 acres.
20
Yeah,
acres.
20 acres. So let's go over the scope. So what we had envisioned, and again, this was just dealing with your staff, and I've heard some very good comments from the board and other participants today. So it's probably not exactly incorporating all these comments that I've recently heard, but what our idea was to do task one, which is like initial shred, design shred, basically come to you with a menu, basically come to you with like a menu of things to do, just like if you're in a restaurant, a bocce ball court is $5,000. A pickleball court is $50,000. And you can go and understand that for this size, this is the size of the element, this is the cost of that element. And you come with a appreciation of what you can actually put on the site and then how much the cost is. And then decide if your budget for the entire park, but then also what we'll do later, and I'll get with that is, but we'll prioritize what you want as far as improvements too. Maybe you want the pickleball courts the very first time, the very first thing, and maybe you want an office for staff and security and to build up or to refurbish the pool. So we'll go and pare that down. That'll be a primary.
And is it
project.
our responsibility to come to you with those requirements, or do you help obtain that information from the residents?
I'm sorry to interrupt. When you say requirements, there actually are no requirements. This is all at your discretion, what you want for your community for recreational elements, but we'll tell you what those elements cost, the size of them, and what the best location would be for them in relation to noise, light, whatever.
We need to get our survey to give to him.
Right. So we need to go to
Yeah.
them and say, hey, these are our
is-
top 5 priorities. It's a activity center, bocce ball,
Trails.
pickle, walking trails, free space.
Right, without.
And then
the
you come
input-
back and we'll give you some design.
And you make it happen.
Without the input from the community saying what they want,
Yeah, okay.
that's a big gap there, and
And I
that we
believe what
can't
Ed had
cross
said
that.
before, and I'm agreeing with, let's do it for kind of the most and a longer term on the loan and pay it, like not
Oh, yeah.
not phase out. I totally agree with him on that.
If we take, we've got this town hall meeting next Wednesday. My thought was if we could come up with a quasi survey form, that we get to those 50, 55 associations and let them distribute it to their people and then get it back. We could then give you that the predominance of people want X. They want then
That'd be Leslie.
A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of what they want. Then let you put that in on that 28.
Well, I'd almost like you to help us get there too, just from the fact, like, can you give us a list of potential elements
Amenities.
and amenities that a park would have? So we can use like walking trails. We could do like,
Fishing dock.
we could come up with things like bocce and tennis and basketball, whatever. But are there some other, park things that you would bring to us? Oh, we didn't even think about a fishing dock or,
Don't say fishing.
yeah, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like, can you help us get that list of things that we need to survey for?
Yeah, if you're asking.
It's basically your menu.
all the
Give me
different
your
elements,
menu
yeah,
before
without
you
the-
have pricing and stuff, so we can take it,
and
put in
do
a
little
survey and say, out of
mailer
these
or
20
something like
items,
that.
what are your top 5 or what do you want to see, period?
Of course.
Okay,
Of course, we
perfect.
could do that.
Awesome.
I don't know if you want to do that before we interact with you first and try to get an idea and then pare down that list, because maybe there's just certain
Well,
elements
why
that
don't you send us your complete list and we'll pare it down on our end.
If we
So
get,
anyways, we had this
Well, we're
first.
if
kinda
we
not
get
sure.
a good
We have a
turnout
week.
next Wednesday,
Yeah.
a good turnout, and we poll them as to what they want, that'll give us a pretty good idea of which way they want to go.
Well, I would say we would have, let's give ourselves, 2 to 3 weeks, and we can have some initial conversations, but give us 2 to 3 weeks so we can send that survey out everywhere.
Yeah.
And because we want to, so out of our population, we need to figure out, we need at least 30% completion in order for it to be statistically significant, for us to say we polled a substantial amount of the population for it to be true.
But what's always happened in the past that they come up with is, what's it going to cost me?
And we say, if you don't respond, that means you want everything. And then they respond.
Right, you got a lot of people, you got a lot of people that's going to respond, they want it, they don't want to pay for it. That's the issue.
Yeah, if you don't respond, that means you want everything.
But I think the key to you, for you, is to try to get a deal. A good example was we went with 8 tennis courts and a championship court. That crashed and burned. So we learned the hard way. We don't do that stunt anymore. $7 million ain't going to cut it. In fact, I hesitate even saying that word without getting shot walking out the door. 20 years ago. That's right. It's a lot of money. So the issue is, I think we have to hit the things that the people really, really want and that they're really, really willing to pay for.
Yeah. Okay. So
That's a complicated question.
Yeah.
The paying, and then also if you're gonna charge fees for these users, or are they just you gonna open it up to the public where anyone can come and go? I mean, there's just a lot of
All that's got to be talked
elements
about.
that have to be worked out, which is why we thought that maybe we just have this initial design charrette with your board and staff, just to get an idea.
Yeah.
And you could pictorially show, well, let me go through it. So task 1, kind of taking your input, just
You
hear
can
me
try
out.
that, see how it goes.
And then we'll go back, and we actually did the original with the help of, at the time, it was Westinghouse.
you did
We did the original park here, and which only got pared down to just, as you know, just the pool. But
So wait a
at
minute.
that time, there were ball fields, there were tennis courts planned
Did you
and
do that
stuff.
one? Is that the one you did?
No, that doesn't.
No, he's talking about the original.
That's what I'm
The
talking
engineering.
about. I've
That's not
got,
the original. That was the.
well, I have the original that Gladding, Jackson, Kirchhoff, Anglin, Lopez, Reinhardt,
Yeah.
everybody else on the East Coast.
Yeah.
That's the one I've got.
Yeah, that was, so this was the kind of like the boring engineering side of
Okay.
that concept though. That was really back in the day. And so anyways, we did the original project, but anyways, go through this first draft shred, just to go through the menu, the prices and stuff like that, get that back from you. And then we'll come back and actually go and do a plan, show you a opinion of probable cost for what those different elements were. And then you might want to think about maybe doing that kind of a concept with the cost involved and stuff. And that might give you a little bit better information to share with the public to get their kind of point of view.
No, I agree.
But anyways, or you can just blindly go and ask them to just go and pick.
No, I think
From
we
the
can
list.
survey.
Do you have, was this the charrette you're proposing to go with right off the bat? Or is this?
No, this is the
or just-
original. This is what they did years ago.
Okay, I don't think I've seen that one.
That's actually a development order plan. We had, well, actually, this probably just went to the Water Management District, but this was what was permitted
So,
originally.
Can we get a print of that or a copy of that?
Oh, yeah,
I've
sure,
never
you
seen that.
probably have it in your files, but.
So I think what we do is
share.
we survey, get an initial pulse. We sit down, have a charrette with you. We come up with, okay, here's our a la carte. Here's the things that we want. You take that back and say, okay, here's a
It's not gonna
concept.
be an ugly plan like that. but
No,
it'll
it's
be-
it's
it'll
conceptual drawing.
basically lay
And then we
everything
take
out.
that, we socialize it. And then people say, oh, this looks great. Or you know what, gosh, I really wish it had this, or I really don't like that. So then if there's before you go to finalize, you have an opportunity for, change orders or at the very end before we finalize. That way we've got the vote of public opinion.
Especially if we can get to something quickly, because I've got a presentation here that people, they want it. I've got 90 names on this thing. They want pickleball. They want it. And I mean, this was just a
Your
group of
community's
people
not
doing
different.
it.
We're doing it all over the place. All of these communities are
You guys are expanding like crazy.
thirsty for it.
So,
Yeah.
but that, people don't want to wait for a plan. They'll wait for a plan, but they want to see dirt moving.
Okay.
Gotcha. So anyways, so that's our idea of getting this task too. And again, I don't know what happened, but.
That's okay. I think we got a good understanding of.
And then task 3, that would be like refining that plan based upon your comments, any
Yeah.
public comments or whatever.
Input.
Yes. And then we'll go and create a better presentation graphics, Bill does very good artwork.
This is
and
where we
whatnot.
have our final plan. So thanks. Based on your input, this is what we have.
And then that's actually at this phase, that's kind of presenting you a black and white version or whatever.
Mhm.
And then we'll really dial it up and
Yeah.
make it a little bit more extra presentable and finalize everything. And it'll be like the conformed document at that point.
Okay, perfect.
Now, I had no idea on the timeline. Obviously, this is based on when board agendas are availability and stuff, but I think we can prepare all these drafts, the concepts and whatnot, 30-day increments. I assume that's, generally your board interval, so.
And that still allows to do construction this summer.
But you have to then do the actual detailed engineering, which
Oh, yeah.
depending upon the scope of
But
the project.
detailed engineering on a
Most
pickleball
difficult part
pickleball
is
court's
for us-
pretty damn
The
easy.
most difficult part is for us to get from here to the conceptual drawing
Of-
and then the engineering.
Of at least,
If we can get to that
phase
point,
one, yeah.
Right, because the engineering, depending upon the cost of the project,
Yeah.
may require a form number CCNA. This is purely
Yeah.
planning and studying activity.
Right, sure.
That's
Okay.
why we're under CCNA.
Understand. And you may tackle different things in different intervals, like, may tackle your pool, because obviously the age in that, you've got to go and get that safe and up to standards. So you might want to,
So Chris,
act on certain.
so the action item here,
I'm Rick.
no, I'm talking to Chris. Thanks.
I was confused.
So what is the action for us to take today?
That's to approve the professional services agreement for the planning study.
And is there a dollar amount associated to this?
22.5.
Okay, 22.5. That- I'm sorry.
22.5, and the only thing I also mentioned to Rick too is their general provisions aren't suited to a CDD or government agency, and we would just attach our standard conditions to our purchase order, and our purchase order is our contract.
Yeah, Rick's familiar with that, 'cause Paul Montez is district engineer for at least 3 districts I represent. 4, as a matter of fact.
Let me rip on Tony. I would imagine he's the type of guy who, when they when the server hands the credit card receipt and he has to sign it, he probably goes and takes a look at the fine print and says, edits it and says, come back, I can't sign this, I'm sorry.
Don't ask my wife about my son's ear.
Okay. I'd make the motion, following staff recommendation, to retain, Holmontes to do this, Commons Park preliminary study.
Now, I didn't include it, but
And I will second that.
So I have a motion, a second discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
If I may make one comment,
Too late.
you have to look
Oh,
at
they come on.
access, because public park, resident park, swipe card entry, that type of thing. This isn't a public park, but if it's open, it will become a public park.
and that's for you to scrutinize.
Say that again?
Obviously, we can.
No, I just said,
Versus private access security.
is it
Well,
fenced?
that was one of the things I was going to show. I'll get into it in a minute. The gal that created this petition went around, and I mean, she's one of the best in the county players. She went to several places and showed how they do that very issue where they have it fenced in, then they have fobs. And when you go and if you've got 4 people on a court, your fobs are hanging up there. And if you don't have your fob up there, it's just like a little Chinese boy, no ticky, no laundry. You don't get in. You don't get in. And they do it on an honor system that if they have like 8 and 10 courts, every one of them have those fobs. And you get an hour on the court, and if nobody else is there, you can continue playing. Otherwise, you rotate off. But we can do all that stuff.
Well,
But I think Chris made the real deal. Somehow, some way, there has got to be a perimeter fence around this entire deal, or we're going to have a nightmare. A nightmare.
Yep.
Because we'll have everybody in, if you do the quality type park that we have over at Gateway at the club, and it's about 50,000 a court. We have 2 over there, is about $100,000. That's all in, everything, fencing, the little covered breeze stand, the whole 9 yards.
Well-
Nice deal. You do that, and there'll be more people outside of Gateway trying to get in there on those courts that we can shake a stick at. So we're
Okay.
going to have.
Thanks for
security.
being here today.
Okay, I do have a video of that drone master plan.
If you'll send it to Chris, and Chris will send it to us.
The fob.
Great.
All right, moving forward, 4D.
Thanks, Rick.
Request to initiate legal action Comcast and Gateway Greens.
Hey, hold on. He's got to stick around because he's got another contract coming.
I don't see it on here, and I thought it was. That's where I was.
It's in the agenda book.
Okay.
See a contract for the
Engineering for the
emergency access road.
Okay, that
Rick
is.
doesn't want that work anymore.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to
Tony,
withdraw
I'm
my last motion
I'm gonna-
then.
I'm going to hold for you really quick. So we'll go to 4F just so Rick can get out of here. This is proposed emergency access road, Prado to Gateway Boulevard.
I make the motion to proceed with the professional services agreement with Holmontes for the general consulting and design and all those other things that are sitting there recommended by staff.
A second.
We have a motion, a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
We do move faster the later in the day.
Yes, we did.
I read the whole damn thing, so.
Okay, on 4D, we've had no response to the request for Comcast to reimburse us either my letters or Chris's emails, and just authorize us to initiate the lawsuit. And what we may want to do is go small claims. Small claims is under $8,000. It's a much quicker, cheaper process.
I think that works.
You know, so it's $10,000 claim for an extra $2,000 in county court. It can cost a whole lot more money to pursue it. So if you authorize the filing of whatever litigation that myself and the manager believe is appropriate to the county court or small claims to try to recover this money.
I so move.
I second.
Okay, we have motion, a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And what we'll also do is
Motion passed.
I will cap the attorney's fees on it.
Tony, we already bought.
Pretend like I'm the judge that you were talking about earlier. So 4E, Enterprise Budget Workshop.
And this is basically just asking for board approval and a vote to approve a utilities enterprise budget workshop on May 20th to go over the enterprise fund and their capital improvement budget for the next fiscal year.
Motion
That's
to
for us, right?
Yes.
But yeah, motion to approve.
Second.
Motion, a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Do we have any items to pull for consent agendas A through E? All right, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve consent agenda items A through E.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Future board business, was that in your district manager?
Yes,
Section.
I just had about 6 items that
Okay.
were listed in there.
Do me a favor. Can we pull those? I like that they're in there, but will you,
On the Dan.
can we just pull them to the end?
Sure.
That way it aligns to that section. Because I always ask you and then I remember that they're in your district manager report. Supervisor comments, we'll start down there with you, Flavia.
I just had some comments and I guess I left, I get some maybe for Chris. And just in regards to landscaping, just follow up. It's still, I do feel like there's still an opportunity. I'm not talking anything about the roundabout. I did go and take some pictures. Some of the oak trees by the entrance on 82, they're between
Which one? In
82,
or-
Griffin and Griffin
Okay, yeah.
82. So the oak trees on the corner of Hampton, some of the branches are 3 to 4 feet from ground. So they need to be trimmed.
need
They're
to be trimmed.
completely, so I don't know if that's in the contract or that's something that needs to be added after, but they're almost touching the annuals. So that needs to be done ASAP. There are 3 light poles right in front of the church over here. They're fully blocked by the trees. However, the oak trees are on the church's side of the parking lot. So I don't know if we need to engage with the church and have them trim it, but they're fully blocked.
We can trim anything that's on our property line.
That's correct. We can trim, a property owner can trim to the
Vertically.
property.
You can even see the lights. So just notations of that. I did talk to Jim about it. I have sent him a few emails. I don't know if they're falling on the cracks. I know he was out for a few days. I know there's some spider mite infestation on the grass on Gateway Boulevard that needs to be taken care of it. That's across from the tavern. Also, there are 3 lights, the old ones on Griffin that are out. They need
Just go
to
on the curve.
on the curve.
Yeah.
Yep. They need to be taking care of it. What else?
Oh, down here.
Down about
Yeah.
7-Eleven.
Let's see. And then this is a question, I guess, for Chris. And I do see as an opportunity. I know we don't take care of the road, and I have done this myself. Anytime that I see there's a road issue, I do log into the county and then I put in as a ticket request. But I do think that staff could be doing that. So on Griffin, on both sides of the road, the shoulder, there's like a drop off, mainly in Pinewood and Timberwood Preserve. Is that what it is? So Pinewood Preserve, between 6 to 8 inches. And there is no shoulder. So it's pretty bad. So I don't know if staff want to get a hold of the county and have them, I mean, because it's not like just one area. So it will really take me to 10,
I mean, that should
15
be, I mean, part of what's in Brian's scope is, literally monitoring our streetways, even though we don't own them, to identify any issues.
Oh, yeah, is the county responsive when you send work task orders?
They
still?
did. So they did. And I was kind of shocked and scared because the last one they did, they brought in 3 dump trucks and I'm sure and they parked because there was so much. They just started dumping
Would they do
dirt.
put down stone?
Yeah, they started putting dirt and I was like, oh my God, how much repair requests? Because I guess they came in and they did a few patchworks, but I guess they saw how much work they needed to do. They left, they came back the next morning and literally they parked
Maybe we should
3
just have
dump
you
truck.
put in all
No,
the tickets.
no.
Ask her if she's got the invoice yet.
No, so they came in and they did. So I don't know if they finished, but it was severe. And then there's a pothole right in front by 7-Eleven. So things like that, if we see it, hey, let's tell them to come and take care of it. And then I have a question for us as the board. Just direction, and I think that's kind of what Kathy was mentioning. I know the other gentleman that was on the call. So this is Griffin. So this is an area as a flower bed, and it looks all that. It looks horrible. I just say pull it, rip it, and then it's not gonna look so bad because that's what it will look like because that's just 15 feet.
And if we can get
line.
some pine straw or something in there, then it doesn't look bad at all.
And then there's nothing. So it's not like it's gonna look horrible. So I think there's a lot of areas.
If it's dead, pull it, or if it's
Pull
not
it
attractive.
out.
Did
It's
you
so,
graphically
No,
improve that?
I
That is
literally-
the grass.
that is, so this is the one behind the flower bed, and then the other one was the flower bed in front of it.
Do we have water there?
Yeah, we have irrigation. It's right in the front of the school. So that's that flower bed that's right there. That one has nothing, and this is the one. So make them look the same. So right in front of Timber Ridge, there's a bunch of dead, like just dead stuff. Just rip it out. I'm not even asking to replace it, but it looks horrible. I don't know what we want to do behind Gardner, but that whole entire section, I went back there. I like had to open the rope because it's all chained up. All those bushes, they're about 4 feet tall. The entire thing is all dead. So,
That's not ours, is it?
Private road.
well, we went in with Jim and Al, and right behind the monument, they said it's ours. So,
It's on the entrance.
So what, they have the lunch area. They have to go up the steps. So right behind, there's, I don't know if they're cocoa plums, but some really old stuff. And it was, I believe it's ours because it was when the irrigation for the roundabout died, all of those died.
Behind Gardner?
Right behind the Gateway sign, the entrance. So you're on Daniels and you're gonna turn into Gateway Boulevard.
It's actually,
So behind Gardner and behind the
to the
charter,
right, to the
yes.
To the right.
And it's on both sides. So behind the charter school and behind Gardner.
I don't
All
know that
those
that's
bushes,
in our right of way.
all those bushes, they all die. So, and they, so things like that, I don't know what we wanna do. It's just,
Well, first thing we got to figure out what it is because we have, or the county has 150-foot right of way there. And I would be surprised that those bushes are outside that right of way. It's probably belongs to Gardner, not us.
I'll take a look. I'm gonna send
take a
the
look at
it.
tape of the meeting. I'm gonna send it to Jim and Brian. And
Yeah.
let them decipher it.
yeah, I mean, I have it on my phone, but I didn't put it on computer. But so things, just, that's all I have, like just little things like that. That's it.
you, sir?
I just want to pass to Chris to put on the record. This is a petition from 90 families of wanting pickleball for a planned phase one. It's a very interesting reading in there. Very interesting reading. So I would just like to see that. I'm glad we got Tolomontis in. Those guys, they know more about Gateway than probably, well, as much as Tony, because both of them are older than dirt that have been here that long. So they know the community, and I think we'll get a good job out of it. But I would like to really see that we get a plan as quick as possible to get construction going. These people, they deserve it.
Yeah.
They don't have anything. That's all I got.
I'll let you go next.
The only question is a follow-up. Has the equipment been removed out of the Sherman Sports Complex building yet, do you know?
The refrigerators.
kitchen equipment and
Yeah,
everything?
that's
I haven't
all out.
been in there in a while.
I think it has been.
Okay.
Whether They were over there working.
I'll probably come over next week. I'll just like to look at it. Thank you.
I just have a couple things I just want us to be considering as we go into budget time period. I have talked with Chris on a couple occasions about what we're gonna do from a facilities perspective. Because as of recently, we've outgrown this spot. We've outgrown the modular unit in the back. Now, maybe one of the options is we create an administrative space along with the new park, which would be maybe a longer term solution. But we may have to look at as early as next year, maybe even leasing a space, within the community to maybe transition some of our administrative stuff to one of these retail spaces. I'm not looking for solutions today, but I think we need to be thinking about it because it's going to limit our ability to expand staff.
Why can't we just come up with a plan to do it here? Because I can tell you right now, we
I think
did
it's
this,
going to cost
the
a
land
lot.
to rent here in Gateway. It will cost you an arm and a leg. It's expensive as hell. I'd much rather see it, notwithstanding what the square footage, how much square footage can we put on here without having grief with the county?
Well, we can't.
Zero.
I'm sorry?
We have
Zero.
to amend the deal or the.
Yeah, it'd be full blown plus parking, plus lighting, plus because the modular took up the last.
But my point is, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
We're gonna do it right.
So, so the options, and I think we got multiple options. One would be to build out this space because we do have some room. There might be some limitations on what we can do, but I think an option is to build off here. And Tetra Tech has looked at modifying, to convert the hot box and the store, but that's not
That's
feasible.
nickel and dime.
So we've got to go and build off somewhere else. So one option is to build off here. Two is to incorporate an administrative component to our activity center or whatever in the commons area. And then 3 would be to maybe, lease another space. And one might be lease a space for a year while we're building out, or make do here, whatever. So it's just something we need to be thinking about as we look at budgets. The other thing is, in that same regard, we need to budget some dollars for modifying this boardroom. This board structure here just does not work for me.
Don't get it. We need to raise it.
The monitors need to be changed. We need to completely reconfigure, because I would much rather, and I want to expand, because there's no reason why staff should have to sit over there. We should have our engineer, we should have, we should have just more space. If you look at any proper boardroom, you've got staff, has space. They don't have to sit in a chair.
Your only trouble with that is this building's a pre-engineered building. To
Yeah,
expand
we can't
it,
expand it.
You
Yeah.
can't.
But we normally don't have more than 5 people here. So we could expand on the sides and not take away from there. So it's just something I want us to look at. In that same regard, I talked with Alan over at Genope about optimizing our whole structure here. So whether it's how we present live, how we present virtually. With that being said, we all have Chromebooks, or at least, did you get a Chromebook when you came on board?
What's a Chromebook?
Like a
Yes,
computer?
he
Did you
did.
get a laptop? Did you get a laptop when you came
Oh,
on
yeah,
board?
but I gave it back.
Did you get a laptop?
I thought I
Okay.
was bad.
So, the problem with the Chromebooks is we're no longer on a Google platform. So we have transitioned to an Office 365. The Chromebooks, Chromebook is a Google, it's basically a laptop designed with a Google operating system. So I haven't used mine.
I use mine all the
I
time.
opened and returned it.
So, but here's what one thing I'd like for us to budget is, since we've gone to Microsoft, I would like for us to collectively as a board determine, I think we need to upgrade our technology. Either we go to a Windows-based laptop like this, or we go to iPads, something that's maybe a little bit more easy for us to carry around, because we're not really saving a lot of stuff. I mean, maybe some people do, but
Well, I thought the ones we have, I've got Outlook.
yeah, but they're Chromebooks. They're not, when you go to, so part of what we're doing as a district is we're migrating to an Office 365 environment, which is more virtual. There's things like, there's application called Teams, which is a chat ability, and the staff should be adopting this, and I'm working with Genope on interfacing that. What that really means is there's like shared folders and things of that nature. The whole piece is, the Chromebook just isn't optimal, like, for us. Now, you might be using it and I can use it, but it's not that easy to use. So we should be looking at upgrading our technology. The fact that we don't bring our technology to the board meetings, I mean, it's here, fine. But if we had our laptops, we could do what I do,
Yeah,
which is
I
I
bring my
log,
laptop, that's what I do.
I open up GoToMeeting so they can see my face when I'm talking. It's a little bit better experience. And then if we have a shared folder, we can access, if a document is updated, we can just pull it up on our own. We don't have to. So something I want us to consider. It's not a huge cost. It's probably, whether we go, laptops or iPads, just be thinking about what you would use, because there's no point of buying something and it's just going to sit in your office and you never bring it in. So, all right, just something. Other than that, that's it for me. So if there's nothing else, I will call the meeting adjourned.
How are we going to call the meeting adjourned? We got an issue.
What's the?
Mr. Huminger is going to be gone in 2 weeks. We got a royal problem here, guys.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what?
He's turned in his resignation.
Don't accept it.
I'm sorry?
Don't accept it.
Well, that's what I was going to make a motion.
So,
No, it's not funny. We got a problem.
well, what I'd like to
We
do
need to figure out
is,
what we're going to do here.
so I'm
And
going
we
to have,
can't talk outside the room.
so I'm going to have Chris and I are going to talk tomorrow. And then we'll have a discussion. I'll probably meet with staff. And then we'll probably have a workshop. We need to have, something where we can talk about moving forward.
Is this a done deal? I mean, it's
And our
not.
Well, that's why I
yeah.
want to make sure that you're beyond where I'm at. I'm not giving in yet. I would like to talk to Chris about the possibility of, is there any opportunity for changing it? One, and if not, can we look at extending that 2 weeks?
Well,
from,
he
let's say,
said he
2
would stay,
months?
he would stay, 2 more weeks, which would give us, a little over a month to transition. And I'll talk with Chris about what that transition time looks like. He said he would definitely be willing to, help us through the transition time period. So it just came through today, so I haven't had time to.
I mean, I found it about 2 hours before I came here, but my problem
Is there any way to avoid you're leaving. Is this a
Yeah,
done
that's
deal?
what yeah.
We're just talking about it right now, but
So here's what I would say is, let me have my conversations with Chris. And then I can coordinate, how do we, I guess at the next board meeting, we can make recommendations
Yeah, or
on
if the board-
transition.
He's gone at the next meeting.
Well,
Or if the board wants to have a meeting in the interim without having to advertise, the board continue this meeting to a date and time certain next week, where the only topic would be this discussion.
I could see doing that.
I would think that's.
But here's my problem on this, guys, because I'm working with him on a lot of stuff. There is a immense hole right now. Our staff does not have a clue as to what he is doing relative to the contacts he's got on these 5 or 6 major projects we've got going.
Yep.
And you are just going to go out and get somebody and replace it. That ain't going to happen. I mean, his relationships with South Florida, the county, developers, all of that, nobody else is involved in this at all. Nobody. I know this stuff as probably as much as anybody, and I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I mean, especially in 2 weeks. That's why I say is if we can talk to Chris and get him to be thinking about a longer term, if he hasn't got an employment someplace else or he hasn't made a decision, I'd like to try to do what I can.
If we want to extend
to extend the time to where he can stay around and give us the opportunity to go get somebody. What his job is, and I think you've got to remember what it was like to begin with. They don't grow on trees.
I'm aware.
To find somebody to
I think we
replace
need
him,
to allow
not just
Doug to
close
talk
your
to
ears. I
Chris
want you to hear
tomorrow.
this.
And then go from there.
So let me give me time
we
to
need some-
talk with Chris and look at a transition plan. We can talk. So I'll do due diligence with Chris. If we want to extend the meeting to next week, I'm open to that.
I don't think we have any choice because we got to make decisions what we're going to do. If Chris will buy some time to give us up to say 60 days, that gives us chance to go out. We got to advertise, interview. I mean, I can't even imagine a person coming in off the street and say, okay, you got the Griffin Drive
Okay.
roundabout.
I mean, I think we all understand.
even
We
have-
understand the
We
impact.
get it. I think we just allow Doug to talk to Chris tomorrow.
So
Well, I just want to
Tony,
make sure that we understand that this transition is not going to happen overnight.
I think we're all aware.
What the board can do is pick a date and time certain now and continue this board meeting to that date and time certain for the purposes of discussion, the district management situation.
But just
You want to just push it to next Thursday?
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday at
3 p.m.
3 p.m. Yeah. So how do I officially do that?
I would just need a motion to continue the meeting to 3 p.m. on Thursday, May 13th, 2021, district board offices.
And this will be a public meeting, obviously.
Oh, yes.
When is our meeting, our president's, oh, that's at 12.
That's Wednesday.
Okay, now I recognize, Doug, you're going to talk to him tomorrow. Is there anything precludes us from having individual conversations with him?
I don't think so.
No.
No.
See if there's any,
No.
okay, I
That's
just want to make sure that,
He always is, and Chris is well versed on it.
okay.
Be a conduit, no daisy.
I just wanted to make certain, I mean, I don't know how anybody knew about it, but I'm just hit cold. I mean, what's going
Well,
on?
an email went out today.
Correct.
So
An email went out?
Tony sent.
I didn't see that.
Sent an email out.
See the Chromebook.
That was good,
Okay.
Claudia.
Oh,
So-
no, I just got tested by Pony Express.
Oh, the Pony Express. Oh, that's
It
it.
died.
The pony got tired of the way.
Yeah, yeah.
manatee.
So we have a motion to extend the meeting to
I'll second.
May 13th at 3 o'clock. So we have a motion, and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There you have it.
Thursday, May 13th, 3 p.m.
And then we can get with you individually.
Yeah.
And we're late today.
Do I have to start coming to the meeting?
Not today.
Not today.
Not today.